we back. You thought it was over, but we back. Let me know if my levels is good. Sega kids, stand up. Say it, say it, say it. Let me know if my levels is good. They will not stop the movement. Joanna Dart, what's going on? Hustle and motivate, what's going on, baby? How the levels good? Nix, what up? Nico, B. Lou, what's up? Yes, you already know. They try to stop us. The fanboys try to stop us. But the Sega legacy shall live on. You already know. Much love, hustle. Much love, much love. Lord Metroid was up in there first, man. Salute. Back for Dad, what's going on? Yeah, we gonna get people in the room. A lot of Sega talk. You know what I'm saying? I'm very curious to see which console. I think I know which console might get the most out of the legacy, but I think there's going to be some surprises, some underrated love and games, you know what I'm saying, from certain generations of Sega that we're going to get to it. Say it! My man V. Lou. Let's talk. I'm joining that once that Eternal Champion, but okay, Beyond Oasis. Lloyd Metro Cog, don't mess the Master System. Listen, I got a lot of Master System love. Y'all might have to call time on me for Master System love. No doubt, Nick Smith, that Genesis Tower of Power. Yeah. So we're going to get people in the room. Just want to make sure the audio was good. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some Sega talk, man. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So I will be back. We're going to pile this room up. Be right back. right. And we are live. Back again at the round table. This time for real. Man. The Sega love is in the building. I have some tremendous company with me. Man, we're going to talk about some Sega. We're going to talk about some generations. We're going to have some appreciation, some retrospective. It's going to be fun, man. We're going to keep it casual. I got some good friends. But first, I got to introduce, of course, my brother on the panel, my Lord, the Lord of all lords, the Iron Bank man himself, and everything else. I felt like I've podcast with you like 2 times earlier today. But we had another meeting. But my man, Lord Saw, man, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Oh, I'm so happy to be here, man. Like, you don't understand. For us Sega kids, it's always been an uphill battle. Especially if you're a fan from the hardware days, right? Like, so and it has certain aspects of Sega recently have not been great, but shout out to Yakuza for holding us down.
Yes, RGG, yes.
But man, yeah, just to talk the history of Sega and how we all became Sega kids, and how our love for that brand kind of came about is fantastic, man. I'm glad we're doing this.
Absolutely got to have my bro with me. And of course, let's start with the developer first. This man, again, for those who don't know, has one of the best games out right now. It's actually a multi-platform in Game Pass. Unto the End, small team, but just an amazing story and well done. Shout out to Sarah in the room. But gotta introduce my man, Steven Dalton. What's going on, man? Dan, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Really, so excited to be here. It's kind of like a walk down memory lane, really, because really like the formative years and why I decided to get into game dev and always dreamed of making games is because of Sega. So this is like a super cool thing to be able to talk about.
This is great. This is what I want to hear. Inspirations. That's what I'm talking about, man. 2-Ton Studios in the building. So glad you could make it, brother. We are going to have some fun talking about these generations.
Can't wait.
No doubt. And of course, we got to deal with a seasoned gentleman next. Gentlemen that usually knows in no introduction, one of the most professional websites going on right now. Great podcast in the Bitcast. My man, Ainsley Bowden. How we doing, sir?
What's happening, guys? We've been talking about this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I know me, you, and Sav have always joked about Sega. Not even joked about Sega, talked about Sega. You can't put it out there like that. But I love how Sav phrased it up as the struggle of being a Sega fan.
Factual.
As a kid. And that's what it felt like at times as a gamer. Gaming was a niche, but it was owned by Nintendo. I know we're going to get into it. But, man, I've really been looking forward to this, as you can tell from my backdrop. So just ready to jump into it.
Oh, that backdrop is so clean, brother. I'm loving it. No doubt. And then we got, last but certainly not least, a veteran, a person who's been putting it down for so long. Honestly, very inspired by him. His journey. He really has helped me out on my content creation and is always willing to give a hand. But more importantly, one of the most purest Sega fans I know. I had the pleasure of doing a great Sega podcast with him that he invited me to. So it's only right I extend the invitation back to my brother, the original OG Next Level Gaming, my man, Mike Mullis. How we doing, sir?
And you said you weren't going to do any fancy.
I had to.
Come on,
I had to. I was in the moment.
I'm blushing, man. What's up? Now this is part 2 for us, man.
Woo!
This is part 2 for us. This when you said, "Hey, I'm thinking of I was like, I'm there." Like, not even. I told my wife, I said 4:00. You go take a nap. I'm good.
My wife is actually at the beauty parlor right now.
There you go. Nah, this is great, absolute great company to be in. And Steven, I actually have Unto the End on my list of games to get through. So
awesome.
I'm actually getting ready to get started with that game. So
cool. Yeah, very cool.
That is awesome to meet you.
Just be prepared to feel very old, because your skills will be put to the test. Just to say
it's
that.
hard. It's very good, but it's challenging.
Oh yeah, it's challenging. Oh yeah, definitely.
If I have to type out, this is the Dark Souls of. I'm gonna
pretty much.
Get ready. It's gonna take you back to those days, those One Life days, and console.
Bring it.
Luckily, there's quick resume, man. You can die right at your point. But look, we got to get into it, y'all. I mean, again, so many.
Let me get these super chats.
Oh, yeah, let's get the super chats. Get the super chats real quick. Spread the Sega love.
Gerald Mack, $5 super chat. All hail the ILP and the Pantheon panel. Great show. Appreciate the ILP for giving us a Saturday and a Sunday to look forward to. Of course, sir.
Of course.
We've been looking forward to this. Then we have Fat Boy Horror, £5 super chat. At Porsche Power, keep that stuff in the background, man. So much better. They like that classic love. They like that.
Man.
They like
You
that.
need to do a seminar on super chat reading, man. You are
Yeah,
love listening to him read the super chats
thank you,
on
thank you.
ILP,
the
man.
enunciations, the different languages.
I know,
right.
You get it all with Saw, bro. Like Saw is just a beast, bro. You get it all with. I'm just so happy.
Peter's the guy
Thank
doing
you,
it
thank you.
on my show. I need to hook him up with you for some lessons. Love it.
No doubt. So we're gonna get right into it, gentlemen. I think I want to start something different. Obviously we know we got the consoles that I have in the back, and we got the generations. But I want to start first, with Sega and the arcade scene first, and just impact it had. Any standouts for you guys? I know I'll start off first. I mean, for me, it was definitely what really drew me to the brand. As a person, as a kid who went to the arcades, the flashy lights, the dim rooms, Sega to me always stood out. Their arcade cabinets, if you even call it, some of them were just like literally full on motorcycles with hang on. And, you know what I'm saying? I think about Outrun and jumping in the steering wheel, the feedback. As a kid, it mesmerized me. It made me want to play these games. So I want to give it up to you guys. I'm open for them first. Whoever wants to jump in, some arcade standouts or things. Did the arcade scene resonate with you guys like it resonated with me with Sega?
I used to go to the laundromat to play Outrun.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be a strip mall up where I was, and my parents would go to one store, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go over to the. And they knew where I was going. It wasn't even, they knew where I was going. I was going to play Outrun.
Woo!
And I dropped many a quarter in that.
What soundtrack? Like, what we doing? Splash?
Oh, magical!
Magical sound shower.
Magical sound shower.
Let's go! Woo!
Magical
My
sound
God.
shower.
Yes.
That's
The greatest.
one.
Yes. That's the goat right there. I like that. I like
It
that.
is.
choice.
That's the
I
goat.
remember first seeing Space Harrier.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Get ready.
And yeah, right. And
Get
before you
ready.
died 5 seconds later. It was,
Yeah, that was tough.
it was tough. Yeah, but just the scaling of it, you know what I mean? It just was different from anything else at the time. And I remember just thinking to myself, man, I got to try and conquer this. I don't think I ever did. But there were a lot of quarters thrown in that thing for sure.
That soundtrack too, man. That
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that was a kicking soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was the intro music we used last year on the.
When I came on. Yes.
Yep,
Dude,
that's
it
what
was-
we used.
Bro, it's inspiring. Like, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
And the bullets that like big jelly beans that you had.
Yeah.
And
That followed you everywhere.
Oh my
It
god.
was like 3D before 3D, you know what I mean? Because you had to
Yes.
measure the distance between your guy and it, and
Yes.
it was just different.
Yeah.
I always loved different things in games, and Sega always brought that.
Yeah.
And
I
never
remember. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that man never got tired running either.
Oh no. That's cardio in the business.
In the business.
Exactly.
Guess so.
I remember Hang On, but I
Yeah.
remember being too young to like actually lean the bike. So I remember being really sad as a kid because it looked so awesome. You had this like full bike, and I get on it, and it wasn't heavy enough, so I die all the time. Yeah.
Bro,
I also remember. I want to know if anyone remembers this. I also remember like a hologram game by Sega where you're
Yes,
like a time travel.
time
something?
travel, time. Oh,
I remember seeing that as a kid. You like
Yes.
it'd be like a room, and you have
Right.
like a puzzle, almost like Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer, and then you'd like warp through a door or something, go to the next room,
Mhm.
and it looked like literally blew
traveler.
my mind because it's like
Time
it was like
traveler.
Star
Time
Wars-
traveler?
Time travel.
I've
It was like
never
it
heard
was
of
like
that.
Star Wars holographic chess. That's kind of what it was like, but realized like in a
Yep.
game. When was it? It was like the 90s or 80s. When did that thing-
1991.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So early 90s. I remember seeing that in the arcade, and just like it's like my mind was just totally blown, man. It was amazing.
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shout out to Kaimasu in the chat. He loved the hang on love. He said reaching the night level and hang on felt so good.
I know.
Absolutely.
I remember that.
That
Yes.
was
No
graphical
doubt.
fidelity back
He
then.
was, he was
Yeah,
such
yeah.
a beast at that. I was so horrible at Hang On. I was so bad. And he's always been so good at games.
Right. Mesmerized. Doom, 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 doom.
Man,
Anyway,
but
continue.
I tell you, man. But for me, it's the same way. Like I think all of us, the love of Sega comes from the arcades, right? And just like you said, Cog, it was that thing of you know, you played the Midway games, you played your Pac-Man, you played, you know, whatever it's Pac-Man, your whatever, your Nintendo games, Donkey Kong, whatever. But Sega was just another level. Like even the really old stuff. I don't know if you guys remember like the original like Monaco GP.
Oh,
yeah, sure.
yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a first person game. It was just a top down like racer. But the cabinet for it was like this elaborate, super like, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I can't believe. And then of course, like the first time I saw Zaxxon, right? And Zaxxon 3D, and those things like. Those were very early games, but these cabinets were so elaborate that you're like, I have to spend money on this. I have to see what this is. And then once they started, you know, once you got like to the Model 1 board and stuff like that, and the super scalar stuff, for me, the one that really, really, really blew me away was Afterburner.
Yes.
Afterburner, unbelievable.
Because I don't know if you guys ever saw, because there was one that was just the cockpit and it didn't move. Then there was the other one that was humongous.
It had the moving cockpit.
Yes, exactly. And I remember over here on the East Coast, we have a place called Six Flags Great Adventure, right?
Yep.
So back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then they had an entire building essentially dedicated to be an arcade. It was amazing. And every time we went there, like my parents would get mad because they want us to get on the rides. I'm like, I want to spend like an hour in the arcade. And it was because it was the only place that had those types of machines, those humongous machines. So whatever, we'd go once or twice a year and we spend so much time there. But it was that machine that really said to me, like, whatever Sega does, I'm there. Like, I mean, it was, that's really, the love came from earlier on, but that sort of stuff really made me a Sega kid because nobody was touching them in that regard.
Yeah,
no one.
That thing was like $1 to play too.
It was. And it's like you pay. It was $1, and then you had the Six Flags tax on top of it.
But I mean, and you remember the one? It wasn't a sequel, but then they came out with this game G-Lock that was sort of like Afterburner, but with the true 3D. Oh man.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, I would be remiss if I did not mention the arcade Shinobi. I mean, that game changed my life. I mean, you know the story. Everybody here mostly knows the story. But it truly was, because it was like, you know, first of all, you learn at a young age the discrepancy between an arcade version and a console port. At a very young age, I was able to understand. We will get to Master System and we will get to Genesis, but you know, I was able to discern that what I'm playing right now is completely different. But the thing that amazed me, you know, I just felt it was one of the perfect games because it was very difficult. The music was fantastic. You know what I'm saying? However, and it wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, that wasn't our boy, Yuzo, was it Koshiro? What's his name? From
that was not Koshiro. No, that was.
That's a very obscure person that did that music, and I think, honest, I know, we give our boy you know all the credit, Streets of Rage and all that stuff, but I still feel Arcade Shinobi had one of the most perfect soundtracks. Like almost every song.
Kawakami, I believe.
Yeah, I believe. And it was amazing. Besides that, like I said, the difficulty, and let's be real, it's the 80s, it's ninja craze, karate movie. Like that was the thing. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I just being mesmerized by people playing it and knowing at one time, I'm like, look, I got to get good at this game. You know what I mean? And going to the local arcade and having that guy that was just so dominant to beat it on one quarter. And I'm like, I got to have this game kind of thing. But thus my namesake and everything was born. But Shinobi Arcade truly resonated with me. I absolutely loved that game.
100%.
No doubt.
And don't forget too that there were, and I know people in the chat, I mean, they're going no love for Golden Axe and stuff, and those were the staples. Don't forget this is the company that also put out Commando, which was a game that you just went back and played, and Congo Bongo.
Yeah, I got Congo Bongo.
In that time when Donkey Kong was like the big thing and Sega needed something to go against it, and I still like, that's one that I emulate to this day because I love that game. That game was so hard, but it was so fun.
No doubt. An older one. Before I had Sega console, my first console was the Coleco, right? And the Coleco would take some of the titles from the arcade. Coleco was a weird system because it had like a lot Nintendo on it, Sega on it. It had all these different people that eventually became. But I don't know if you guys remember, it was an arcade. It was called Turbo. Y'all remember Turbo? It was almost like Sega's version of pole position in a way, like that arcadey racer. You can't really hit the other cars, and I remember being very impressed by that game. And again, another arcade game that came out. Obviously, the chat is going in about Altered Beast and Golden. I mean, those we're gonna get there, but I just want to get some obscure ones. Any obscure ones out from the arcade that you guys also remember before we move on into the console generations of Sega. Any other arcades ones that resonated for you guys?
Actually, I wanted to note something on Golden Fantasy Zone. Yeah, was incredible. I just wanted to note on Golden Axe that I think the console version made me kind of, because I don't think the console version was nearly as good as the arcade one.
Yes.
And I think that it made me kind of like forget about Golden Axe a little bit because of that. And I think that's an interesting thing that happens, for people that maybe experienced it for the first time only on console and never saw it in the arcade.
Yes.
Probably changes perception, yeah. But Fantasy Zone. Yeah, I remember playing that game and it was such a weird, you're like a flying egg with wings and like the world is like like acid trip or something. It was like crazy.
It was bizarre, right? It was just like,
bizarre.
What is this game? Yeah. But it's, and I got Fantasy Zone 2 somewhere, wherever I can point.
Yeah.
Games were just amazing. They were all colorful and unique and different and fun and I love those games, man.
I'm glad you brought up Turbo because I had that on the ColecoVision with the wheel.
Me too.
It came with the wheel. That was, man.
Oh yeah, plug that into the expansion drive. That's a Coleco. Yes. That'll be a Coleco appreciation retrospect. We could do that for a while, but look, for sure. So arcade, we got to transition, y'all. We got to transition to that red and black right there. That red and black right there, and a very, very beloved system for some, that had it. But I'm actually gonna defer to Ains here, man. I want to know his. We see it behind him as well. The Master System, the Sega Master System. What did that? I want to start with the console before we get to the game. I want to start with the console first and your appreciation for it.
Yeah, so we don't have to get into story time because I can sit here and talk about it all day. But I had Atari growing up, right? And then I went over to a friend's house in '85, and he had gotten Nintendo and Super Mario Brothers, which I'd never seen before, and blew my mind, right? But I think like many of us who talk about those days, I lived with my mom. She was a single parent and didn't have much money, right? So the next year, she saved up and she went to buy me a video game system. And no joke, we went into it.
We lost Ains.
Ains.
Ains, you muted.
You're muted.
Ains, you muted up.
Something happened.
Ains,
we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
You were good. You were good for a minute.
Can you hear?
There you go. We got
back,
you.
Back,
Man,
back.
Nintendo came and got you.
They try to snipe us, bro. They try to snipe us.
I know. They got Cog's keyboard. They got my mic. What are they doing out here? I'm sorry. So what I was saying is, my mom didn't have much money. Couldn't get a game system, right? The next year, she had a credit card at a department store called Boscov's, which if you're familiar with the East Coast, you know. And she literally picked up a Sega Master System and brought it home to me because she didn't know any different, right? So I didn't really know much at the time either, but I can just tell you that, I was the only person I knew that had a Sega Master System. Everyone had Nintendo.
Sounds familiar.
But she had this deal, and I think I've told Cog and solved this before. She had this deal. She was a hairdresser, and she would cut this lady at KB Toys hair for free, and the lady at KB Toys would give her a game, just a random game to take home to me. And so, I got to experience all these games. Very fortunate, and the console itself just always meant a lot to me because it was mine first of all, and I didn't have much. But I always thought, again, everything we said about the arcade's kind of true. It was different from Nintendo, right? It wasn't as appreciated, but it gave you unique experiences. The whole cartridge and card thing was cool, right? At the time as a kid, the light phaser was awesome. Putting the little joysticks in the in the pads, right?
Yeah.
So
I forgot about that.
I forgot about that. Yo,
modular controllers, like
so just everything about the console always stuck with me, and it, you know, it had a lot of good and underappreciated experiences on it that people look so fondly back on the NES today, as they should, right? But the SMS never gets any love, and it's just a shame, because I don't think not anyone, but a much smaller percentage of people just got to experience the games at that time that they would have really appreciated, I think, compared to Nintendo.
No, I agree. And it's funny you say that, Ains, because also I think it was also understated the power of that system in comparison.
It was more powerful than the NES.
Yes. What was it? The Z?
Yeah.
Is it Z80?
Z32?
Yeah. It was, okay. Yeah. It was a beast. Get it. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. You
I was gonna say Michael know better than me.
Yeah, Michael.
No, but that was the one. That was the one thing that Sega always had, was at the time that they were together, they were always the better hardware.
Yeah.
And the Master System looked better, sounded better.
Sexy.
It did.
Yeah, had notably better sound.
Yeah,
and the games had a better sound board, and it just created kind of experiences you couldn't find on the NES.
No doubt, Steven. The console first, a Master System. Like, what did that mean to you?
I mean, I actually have a fairly similar story to Ains in that I remember when my parents got the system. I don't know why I wanted a Sega, but I really, for some reason, wanted it. Maybe it was a commercial or something, but I really wanted one. I remember there's a store I'm Canadian, so there's a store in Canada. It's called Consumers Distributors, Distributed, and you go into it's like a storefront on a warehouse, and you go in. It's like retail stuff, like super cheap stuff. You go in, you ask for what you want. You get a number, someone goes in the back in the warehouse, pulls it out, brings it back to you. And for some reason, after I remember going with my parents in the car for them to get it. And I remember being convinced they got me an NES. And I was like, for all of December, because I got it for Christmas, I was like crushed. I was so mad. I don't know why I thought this, but and then when I opened it up on Christmas Day, I was like just blown away. I was like, they actually got me the right thing. This is amazing.
Good.
No, I was going to say, one other thing that really stands out for me with the Master System is that was the first time as a kid I remember, you know, when you get a piece of electronics and they put like that plastic kind of protective layer over things.
Yes.
I remember distinctly like taking that off the controller and like the red kind of stuff. I remember that. That was like my first experience with that. And I remember being like so careful with it and stuff. It was like such a precious thing. Yeah.
And it looked like a higher end machine than the NES. You know what I mean?
Very sophisticated.
It felt premium.
It definitely, Nintendo always had that toy feeling where the Sega stuff did feel like an adult sort of product.
Exactly, yeah.
No doubt. Sav, you have some history here.
Oh man, I mean, for me, it was my first sort of experiences with the Master System were Cog's house. Right, Cog pretty much got it immediately when it came out, and I guess it was like holiday '86 is when it came out.
Yeah,
I just wanted to interject and say that is super cool. You guys are still friends. Like that's like pretty rare to like.
Oh yeah,
buddies that know each other. That's
since
awesome.
the third grade.
Since the third grade,
we've been in every class, all the way almost to.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Super rare.
That's part of what makes the Iron Lords work.
Yeah,
that is
true.
part of what it really does.
It's true. Some of the stories you guys share, man, are just they bring back the nostalgia right away.
This is like, look, my brother's in the chat, and like
again,
like this is my pal from we were little kids, and it's like we've played GI Joes and Transformers together, so it's like all these experiences are shared. So that's what makes them so amazing to me. So I didn't have it yet. Cog had it from the beginning, and of course the Sega love from the arcades. I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing, but I also could not ignore the Nintendo zeitgeist that was going on, right? So it was one of those things like, man, I'm torn. I don't know. So in my house, my parents were very good about getting us everything that we asked for, but it was very much a trade-off. Like, we get you what you want. You're probably not going to get it when you ask for it, but guaranteed Christmas time, you probably have it if you've earned it. And it was all about earning it. So I got it the following Christmas. And the following Christmas was also the time when, whatever. Like my parents finally clued me in on there's no Santa Claus thing.
The reality.
Spoilers.
Spoiler.
So it was the first time that I felt like I was an adult when my dad was like, all right, we're gonna go to the store, we're gonna pick out your Christmas stuff, and I want you to pick it out. I'm like, okay, wow. So we go to Sears. And they had shout out to Sears. And they had the NES. And they had the Master System, and the NES, being that it was so popular, there was no kind of deals with it. It was just the NES. I don't think it was the one that finally came with Mario as a pack-in, so it had like Duck Hunt and Mario. So it was the gun and Mario. Yep. So it was no Gyromite or anything like that. And then the Master System came with the light gun. It came with the 2 controllers. It came with Hang On Safari Hunt, and this one also came. This one also came with Astro Warrior. So we had all those 3 games out the gate. And then in addition to that,
there was something else.
There was something else. And that was, for me, Cog and I spent many an afternoon after school playing Double Dragon.
Yeah.
Kaibatsu was just saying it in the chat.
That's why I got that.
It was, I almost got murdered one day going to play Double Dragon 2 in a neighborhood.
We shouldn't have been playing. We went to a neighborhood just to play that game because it was the only place that had it. Yeah, get to you.
Yeah. So our Double Dragon love was unparalleled. And so the deal was, hey, if you buy this system now, you will in the mail, you will receive a copy of Double Dragon, the one that Angel has right behind him. Woo! Double Dragon for the Master System that perfectly emulates the arcade experience, a 2-player game, and it's virtually content-wise identical to the arcade game.
Can we fanboy? The NES one did not have 2 players.
The NES did not have. The NES one was a different game.
What a fanboy for a second.
A whole different game, right?
Yeah, it was a whole different game. It just didn't feel the same. So I said, that moved me because it was touch and go for a minute. Because again, the Nintendo zeitgeist, I'm like, damn, Mario.
Yeah.
And then this kind of put me over the top. And then in addition to that, so I got that. I was excited for that. I kind of wasn't sure that I'd receive it. I'm like, I don't believe this. They're not going to send me this game or whatever. I just got shysted or whatever the case was. So, mind you, that game did not come out until 88 on the Master System.
Yep.
I received my copy of Double Dragon in April of, October 88 it came out, right? I got it in April 88.
Yeah, he had it.
So this was, I got it in the mail. I could not believe it. I opened it up. I got it. I think it was a Monday or something like that. And immediately I looked at my mother at my house. The rule was no video games during the week. None. So I said, Mom,
Double Dragon, like, what's up? Like,
and she was like, okay, you can play for an hour and that's it. And then for the weekend, right? So then the very next day, I'm excited. I take the case to school. I'm like, you guys will never believe what I have.
I didn't believe you. I didn't believe you.
Oh no, because I said it first and I hadn't pulled the case out. I pulled the case out with the instruction booklet, and Cog is like, oh my God,
bro. Like, the white box, the blue stripes. You know the vibes.
Oh yeah.
So Cog didn't have those rules and regulations during the course of the week that I had. So immediately he's like, I'm going home with you today. I'm like, all right, fine.
At the school, baby.
Yeah, so I'm thinking he's just coming over to play, right? I didn't know what the master plan was, right? So he's like, we play for a little while. My mother lets us play again, right? Shout out to Mom, because this is not part of the plan.
Right.
She lets us play for a little while, and then Cog is like, yeah, Mrs. Anduhart, can I borrow it until Friday and I'll bring it back on Friday? He asked my mother, not me. Asked my mother. And so my mother loved him. She's like, of course, Barry, sure, no problem. So I'm like, I cannot believe this man shysted my game out from under me.
I forgot about that.
He took it. I love that game. So he took it. Yeah, he took it. I know he must have played it a million times during the course of the rest of that week, and then he brought it back to me Friday, and then again that weekend we played together again. Double Dragon was life for us, and that really brought me into the Master System fold. And then after that, I mean, to be honest, guys, like Ain said, there are so many underrated experiences.
Ooh, I got some.
When you look, man, like I'm looking at a list right now because you tend to forget stuff, but the Alex Kidd, Govelius, like. Roston, Fantasy Star. Cog, remember Ken Saden? Ken
Oh,
Saden?
you stole. I was gonna say that. That was the one for me because that was as a kid. That game it represented. I'm gonna say Japanese mythology.
It was mythology. It was sort of what samurai stuff.
Yeah, it was a samurai. You were a samurai. It was kind of like the Dark Souls of its time on a 2D level. And the thing about it, Mike, this was the first game that truly scared me as a kid. Like I was very intimidated by this game. Like this game, it had very dark themes, and like everything on Sega was Alex Kidd, hang on, and then it's like Crusading, and it's just this evil demons, and I'm like, what is going? And it was like brutally hard. Some of the best music you will ever hear. You know what I mean? And it also basically you would travel to different provinces in Japan, I believe. And it had backtracking. You could. It was very expansive for its and graphically it looked really
amazing,
good.
Yeah.
So I gotta shout out Consent. I'm gonna let you continue.
Real quick. So Consaden, the Ninja. Like to me, everything about the console felt so like the fact that you had cartridges and then you had these Hue card games. Like I remember playing My Hero and like
Sega card.
Yeah.
That game was hard as hell. Continue.
It was hard.
It was tough as hell. And then I gotta give a big shout out to my brother because again, he's always been a gaming savant, and we got actually along with the console when we got it for Christmas, we got Rambo First Blood Part 2. And as big like Ikari Warriors fans, we're like, okay, this is their version of that. This game was so difficult.
That game, I remember that game with my brother. That game was, didn't you have like one life or two lives and you have to start the whole thing over? It was
all over again.
Do you remember the outdoor, like, do you remember the city scene and you're like shooting the cops and like one bullet and then you're just like.
And the bullets followed you.
That
The bullets tracked you.
Wow.
If it were not for Kaibatsu and his just amazing skill, we would not have beaten that game. But the part that Steve is talking about is the end of the game.
Yeah,
and it's a cityscape, and the thing is, your enemies would throw bouncing Molotov cocktails and grenades, and you moved perfectly slow enough to not be able to get out of the way if you made a tactical error and turned the wrong direction. It was bad, but it was so good.
I loved it.
Man, the Master System was very, very special to me.
I wanted to add one story on Consignment. Me and my brother, like most of my gaming. I had it, yeah. We played.
You knew about the horror.
I love Consignment. It was awesome. But we had this older kid in the neighborhood who also was a Sega guy. And as a young kid, you at least for me, you like really respect the older guys. They really know what they're. Yeah. And he convinced me and my brother Greg that there was like a secret boss, this like green dragon in Consignment, and he's like, you got to do this and this, and then go to the stairs, and then. We spent like weeks trying to find this freaking boss. He doesn't exist in the game. There is no secret boss, but like that, we like played through it over and over and over. Trying to find
God, it's funny that I didn't think anybody would remember Consignment. It was very obscure, but it's cool to see. Before I give it to Ace, I know Ace gonna get some bars off, but I gotta get by. I know Mike Master System wasn't in your pocket then, but like, did you ever go back to it, or was it just completely from your history? Wasn't part of it at all?
It wasn't typically part of my history. I wasn't really. I was still into PC gaming at the time.
Gotcha.
I was still doing. I hadn't really moved. I had a ColecoVision. That was my thing back then, and then I kind of moved into the PC sphere, and then it was Genesis when I got back in the console.
Got it. Okay, we almost did. No,
I'm loving this. There are some things that I do remember. From the especially a lot of the ports that came backward from the Genesis that actually were almost as good. So I'm enjoying
Castle of Illusion.
And Aladdin, I think too, was one that was just about as good as the Genesis version. So I'm enjoying listening to this.
Okay, cool. So like I got
you want to go buy one right now.
Me and Ains, we gotta have a little segment here. There was a game that at the time I didn't know what it was. It had this.
I don't even know where you're going with this.
I'm about to set you up. There was a game I didn't know what it was because let's be real. At that generation, that era, the box art meant a lot.
Yes,
we had no resources to determine for the most part what was good. So the box art would get you. And there's a game behind Ames, and I remember it was this woman, and she had a shield, and I was like, what is this game, Ace?
This is for Fat Boy in the chat too. You know he came prepared. I'm gonna
let
this
you
is
set
the
it off.
copy that I got when I was 10 years old. This is
wow.
my original copy.
All right.
I'm a huge
Oh my
Phantasy
God.
Star 1 fan too. Yeah.
Wow.
Talk
Yeah,
about
and
it,
it's
Ace.
complete.
Oh man,
Look at that
With
red
the
and
man-
black. Woo!
The manual
And
too,
it-
man.
And it has the saves on it right at Dark Falls at the end of the game too.
Oh, nice.
Let's talk about it, Ace. What got you
Yeah, man.
into Phantasy Star?
Yeah, so there's a few things I'll talk about Master System. So Mike, you can cover me on Saturn, I'll cover you on Master System.
All right.
Phantasy Star. So it came out in '88, right, in the U.S. at least, and I was 10, and I got it for Christmas because it was an expensive game, right? It's battery backup, and you remember, I think on the back of it says like 4 mega, remember, which was a big deal at
That
the
was a
time.
big deal.
Yeah, you were like, oh, this game,
Huge.
whoa.
And you could save your progress?
Yep.
What?
Yep. So I had no idea what it was. To your point, you just get a game and you see characters on the front, and you get 4 screenshots on the back, right? And you're like, all right, what is this? And no instruction manual. But like I said, I had no family members. Like my siblings are way older, so I didn't have like brother, sister that would help, and no friends that had it locally, so they didn't know, right? So on the NES, you had Dragon Warrior and you had Final Fantasy, and those became very, very big, obviously. On Sega Master System, you had Phantasy Star, and this game, man, like it took me a while to figure it out, and I remember just sitting there around winter vacation as a kid when I got it at Christmas, and just going through it, because that's all you did. It's the only game I had. You know what I mean? So that was what you played, and it is so good from a classic JRPG standpoint, and it brought forth so many concepts that were I believe taken for granted at the time, because I'll stack up Phantasy Star against Dragon Warrior 1 and Final Fantasy 1 all day long. All day long. It's not even a competition in my book. It's got 4 different planets you go to, right? Which, at the time was kind of crazy, because you literally do explore them all. It had the 3D, obviously the biggest thing.
Remember the maze music?
Yeah, the mazes, right?
What?
You had no idea where you were going.
No map. No in-game map at all.
No, nothing.
No,
nothing. And even worse, they trick you even worse because they put traps.
Yeah, and hidden walls.
Hidden walls.
Oh my God, it was insane.
I remember there was one like late game, right? And you go, and then you have to find the stairs. Remember, you go up multi-level. And you go up, and I'm like finding my way through. Finally, like after dying and retrying, you go up again. Oh, I'm at 3rd level now, right? And I see a door in the distance. I'm like, oh my God, I made it. You walk towards the door and you fell all the way to the 1st level. I was like,
It's a trap.
I was like, oh no. But again, it's just there's so much to that game, and I don't have the time nowadays. I used to go back and play it all the way through about once every year or two. You know what I mean? It's been a long time now, but it's just so special to me. There's a funny story real quick too, an anecdote on it. There's a spot in that game, if you've played this game and remember it all the way through. I remember. There's a spot a point in the game where you have to get a pass to fly to the
next thing.
Planet, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't tell you how to do that. You don't have any idea. So like, I just remember being like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. And I remember it just you exaggerate things as you get older. So I don't know if it was weeks or months, but I made no progress on the game, like at all, because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And eventually I remember finding it, and it like a light bulb went off, and I just, got so excited that I could continue the game. But yeah, so special. And so we talked about it already, right? So underappreciated. Like you try to go back now, when you say Phantasy Star, people nowadays immediately go to PSO, right?
Right.
Yeah. But Phantasy Star 1, 2, and 4, 3 to a lesser degree, I think we all agree.
I agree.
They're just really, really special games, and I wish they kind of had that appreciation to them that Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior get.
Yeah, it should be in that pantheon. I completely agree. Shout out to Lord Metro. He said you should have saved some macetas. Remember the macetas?
The
currency in the joint. Yeah, that was a big thing. And I agree completely, Ains. That game changed me as well. I remember the music. I remember the characters. Oh, you had Odin. You had the cat meow, and you know what I'm saying. It was just so cool. And I was one of my introductions to JRPGs. I want to transition quickly to Steven because we got to talk about it. You know, when I had you on Iron Lords podcast, you know where I'm going.
Yeah,
it's a game.
Yeah, listen, I just got a chat on Xbox Live talking about. Have you mentioned this game yet?
Yeah,
I know where you're going too. I know where you're
this
going.
This game changed the way I fundamentally play games. I never played a game and then I had like a notepad next to me, it was this game. It was called Zillion. It was a very interesting, unique game. Now I want to start with that one. Now the second one I didn't like. We'll talk about the second one. But second one was a complete departure from the first one, and they tried to make it
one of the most disappointing points of my life.
Very disappointing.
So sad.
But here's the thing, though, is graphically it looked great. The jump they made was, but it was just a completely different game. But I want to pass to Steven, like, what about Zillion that got you? I gotta know.
I mean, Zillion, I think with all of us, the games that kind of hit hardest kind of have a story outside of the game that kind of makes it more special. So that Zillion was a game that my dad randomly brought home one day. And so Zillion was also an expensive game. It was more expensive than most of the games. Mm-hmm. I think it was because of the graphics. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. My dad's not a gamer. My dad's he's a baseball player. He doesn't like games at all, but he randomly went to this computer store and brings this game home, Zillion. I still remember the cover art and thinking, wow, this looks cool. And then my brother and I popped it in, and it, as Cog was saying, Zillion was Sega's answer to Metroid.
Yes.
Right? But to me, it's much more of a cerebral game than Metroid because you actually have to memorize things every single room. You're memorizing a code of weird symbols every single room to get through, and then. And then they had
you know that sound. Y'all know that
sound. And you really had to pay attention the whole time. And then you also had the worst jump feeling jump in the entire
was horrible.
It was delayed up and then you floaty and then came down, so it made it really hard to get over traps.
Yes.
The thing I remember most about that game, other than those things, is they did an awesome job of teasing the characters you could save, Apple and Champ. That was amazing.
Right.
You'd see a Apple kind of in Carbonite, Han Solo style.
Yes.
And then you'd spend an hour, 2 hours, sometimes more trying to get to them. And then I remember getting them, and then I don't know if you remember the end, Cog, but the end, those guys, they just basically it's you have to escape this thing. I played it many times and I've always made it out, but I wonder if you don't make it out, does the game just end?
Yeah, the planet would explode. I mean, that part really put terror in me because it was
insane.
You basically played the game and it was this huge underground maze for the most part with all these different terminals, and you had to memorize all these levels, and you had to save your compadre and stuff. But like you said, you get to the boss, you get to the end, and then it's a self-destruct sequence with a big timer while you're fighting the boss on the way out.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
As a kid, it added so much tension, what's going to happen now? Granted, it probably was, now you look back at it, it was probably more than enough time. But in my childhood mind, it was the fear of God and stress to get out of this place. But continue, Steven.
That was a game that I couldn't play. I watched Cog play that game. I could not play that game.
Do you remember the red cards versus the blue cards? And you had to get the four. There was just a color change. That was those were the four coolest cards I've ever heard. Man, no, I just love that game. It is still I've gone back and played it many times. I think it's really was the reason I wanted to make video games. That game.
Fire.
I also that and Phantasy Star were my two favorite games.
Nice.
From Genesis for sure. I don't know if you guys remember the last maze in Phantasy Star was all gold.
Yes.
And
a secret door.
And if anyone I must have played through that maze. I don't know, weeks.
Preach.
And the thing is, in modern game design, you put landmarks in a maze.
Yeah, they had one.
It's literally gold bricks. That's it. It's just a gold wall.
Mike, it was brutal. Forever.
It is so hard.
I had notepads where I tried to draw lines.
Trying to draw the graph and stuff. Yeah.
And every step you took was a chunk, right? It was chunk. So I literally started going 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks. All right, make a left. Yeah. 1 click, 2 clicks.
Wow.
It was so hard.
Wow.
I have a funny story about Zillion 2, which wasn't as good, but the last boss on Zillion 2 is the hardest boss I've ever played in my life.
Yes.
I was there. My brother was when I was facing that boss. I was there. My brother was there. and our two friends across the street who were Nintendo guys, and that's kind of like my childhood. They were there. I died to this boss like 20 times. I kicked all of them out of the room. I needed like complete silence, and I finally beat them. But and I turned around, and they were like peeking through the door, watching me beat the final boss. But that game was insane, Zillion 2.
Yo, it's amazing. I mean, Sav, you remember them stories. Real quick, shout out to the chat. Kai, little known fact, Zillion was based on an anime. I found that out later.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I never knew it was. And apparently, it was a popular anime for a bit.
I can see that. That makes sense. Actually, all the art and stuff was really the character art and all that was beautiful.
Now, Mike might help me out here because I believe the people who did that art, the production company, Tatsunoko. It's the people who did Gatchaman. That was one of their first. So the G-Force cartoon and all that stuff. That's from that. So that was pretty amazing to me. And then, real quick side note, shout out to Fat Boy Hart. He's like any Golvalius love before.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Golvalius.
Still got it.
No doubt. But yeah, I mean, I'll finish up with Master System. It's pretty much you guys said all of them. You know, those are the ones for me. The card games. I had the My Heroes and all that stuff. And another thing that we forget about is the 3D glasses. I actually,
oh my god,
had that. They pioneered 3D.
Defense 3D.
With Zaxxon.
Yes.
And everyone I've talked to said it really does work.
Yes. Very impressive. Yeah, it was a very ambitious system, very powerful, and like Ain said it best, it just looks so sophisticated. It's just so cool. Hey, look, you got it.
Sorry. I was gonna say, don't forget too that the Light Phaser, they had some really strong games for that.
Yes.
So like Gangster Town, I always
Oh, Gangster Town
was there.
Awesome.
It was like, they always had a response to Nintendo. That was their Hogan's Alley response. But Light Phaser also had like Rambo 3, and they had Rescue Mission. They had Operation Wolf, which was you know what I mean, from the arcade. So Light Phaser games are great. And then the only other thing that popped in my head is you guys were talking about Double Dragon, because we were joking about that being far superior to Nintendo.
Absolutely.
Don't forget, Ghostbusters was the same way.
Ghostbusters for Sega. Yes, was amazing. I forgot about that.
Shout out to Greg Miller. That was his introduction.
Ghostbusters was amazing for that.
Yeah, it was way better than the Nintendo.
Now, this for the hardcore. What about your Master System? That special feature with no game in it. With no game in it. And the maze game.
The maze game. Oh, yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought it was so cool. It was the only system. If you didn't have a game. Yeah, it was this maze thing unlocked in it. I just thought it was the coolest thing, man. But yeah, salute to that. The cards, the system. And then, like I said, they even though we knew the difference between the arcade, at least they had the hang-ons, the outruns, the show. But they did attempt to make conversions of it. And I believe Hang-On was a pack-in, right? Hang-On and
Hang-On Safari Hunt.
Safari Hunt.
And then they had an Astro Warrior pack-in at one point. And then obviously
Alex Kidd one as well. They mixed it up as time went on. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and then salute to Sega as we get into this next generation, which we'll move on to.
I wanted to know two more Sega.
Go for it.
I want to see if any of you guys have played it. So one was Rocky. Did anyone play the
Rocky game?
Yes, my God, I love that game.
Yo, so I got to stop you right now.
I played that in Sears, by the way. I did play it, but I had to go to Sears to play it.
Bro,
there are a few we haven't mentioned that were like really.
Yeah, there's quite a few actually.
Yeah, there's quite a few we forget. But thank you, Steve. That was one of the best Rocky games.
Oh, yes.
Good.
But I thought it looked beautiful.
Phenomenal.
I could never beat Clubber Lang because so Rocky was this game where you had 3 fights, right? And you had to fight and then you trained. And how well you trained
depended on how you did in the fight.
How fast you were in the next fight.
Yes.
And so I could never train fast enough to beat Clubber Lang.
Was he the one with the mitts? Was that the one?
Yes. One guy was mitts, one guy was Speedbag. Whoever was this. Okay, so it was Drago I could never beat. I could
Drago.
Okay.
Drago was like the Tyson of that game.
Of that game,
exactly. Yeah. So as a kid, I could never do it. And then one day, I had a pop can sitting by my thing. I took a pop can and I would rub it on the buttons, so the buttons would get like insane, beyond human speed inputs. And you'd rub it, and then you could do the speed bag, like blow the meter right back, and then you could destroy Drago, no problem at all.
Yes, bro, I gotta shout you. How in the hell did I forget Rocky? Rocky Mike, let me tell you, man, this thing graphically,
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bro, like I remember seeing the character models and just with Mickey training with you and
It was nothing like it.
yeah,
It was
it
nothing
was
like it.
really good, you know. And so the music was good. That Clubberland got me to like you had to be very depending on the score you got on the success with that training was how well your Rocky did in the fight, and Drago as well. And that was a phenomenal. What was your second one? You were about to say another? You said Rocky.
Yeah, the other one was a small game called I never known how to pronounce it. It was YS.
East.
And it was like
East.
Yeah,
East.
so okay. So it's like a role-playing game, and you didn't even have an attack animation. You literally would just run into guys. But you could do like a lot of like you could break kind of the mold. Like you could go into the mines and get this like silver shield way early, and then make other things easy. That game like was super cool because you could do all the kind of neat things. It did have a bug where if you got to the one, do you guys remember the room where you go in there and your life would just drain?
Would you drain?
Yeah.
Because the sky was like, I don't know, something, and you could get stuck in that room. You didn't have a certain item, and they'll have to restart the whole game. So I like played the heck out of that thing.
Yeah.
I was always impressed that a game like that came to the Master System.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that, by the way, was a Yuzo Koshiro. He helped with that soundtrack.
Nice, the
Yeah.
legend.
I love that.
That was back then when you didn't have they didn't have those mental barriers about now this game wouldn't work here. It's just like let's do it. Let's try to figure it out. Let's do it and see what happens, man.
Absolutely.
I mean they had Ultima on there.
Yes.
Ultima 4.
Wow.
I remember that. I mean, that was a little bit for my age. I was like, nah, I can't really get down with this. But it was just impressive to have it there. But a few that we didn't mention that were special for us, Cog. You know, again, ninjas, kung fu, karate, the ninja.
That's what I just remembered
I
another
played the
one.
heck out of the ninja. Yeah,
I love the ninja. I remember the
ninja.
Black belt. Yo, Black belt was awesome. Black belt was awesome.
And then particular to both of us as well, Choplifter.
Yes, Choplifter.
Oh man.
Oh man,
That was also a big
I was
arcade
playing
game.
that on the Atari
Yeah, it was.
computer. when you guys were
Exactly.
playing that on the Master System. Nice.
Choplifter.
Nice. What a great game that was.
And Alien Syndrome. We played a
Alien
whole lot of
Syndrome.
Alien Syndrome.
Alien Syndrome was a super hard game too.
Yeah,
You went
man.
there and you'd like die right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But especially the kung fu stuff, the black belt and ninja. The ninja was so good for its time.
It was
Black belt was a response to kung fu.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, black belt was better. I'm sorry, like black belt.
Oh yeah,
because it was. I found out it was literally a port of the. It was based on Fist of the North Star. That's who he was. I never knew that till later.
Yes, if you remember it, because black belt wasn't the one-on-one. Like I remember you had to go through a stage.
You had to go through a stage.
Absolutely, yeah.
You beat the boss at the end.
Yes.
Right. It felt more like it was Fist of the North Star. And obviously we got Last Battle, the next generation.
Right,
But
we go get in that. But no, for sure, definitely that Choplifter. I forgot all that. Oh man, wow,
a lot of Choplifter. We played a lot
Choplifter
of
was such a
Choplifter.
great
Classic,
game.
man.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was a
I wanted to
classic
say
game.
I wanted to say on the Ninja, that was the first time me and my brother and our other friend Casey wrote like a game design document. Because we played that Ninja, and then we like spent all like summer like writing a game design document on how to make the Ninja better. And it was, I wish I still had it because it's probably just total gibberish.
Oh my
That was
God.
the first time I ever did like any game design. Yeah.
I remember that game vividly. He had the disappearing. You would go up, right? You would go up, and then you throw the stars, whatever. And I remember that game frustrated me real quickly. And we move on. It frustrated me because you got to like the board before the end, right? And the game tries to give you a riddle randomly. Like it gives you a scroll, and it's like hit the third totem pole on this day or this time. And I didn't understand what the hell. I remember like looking at it years later and seeing someone figure it out. I was like, I'd never finish that game. But yeah, that was one of those moments in game design. It was a very interesting choice by them to do that. But we got to move on because we can stay on Master System so long.
We could do this for each system, right? We're gonna keep remembering games.
I know you know how this gonna go. But so if you want to get a couple super chats before we get into
we only have
a few.
So, first off, Gerald Mack, $5 super chat. Thank you, Lord Sovereign, for correcting my double word in my super chat. You are the best. All hell the IOP, of course, sir.
Salute.
Anytime. Then we have Fat Boy Horror, £5 super chat.
He's OG.
Master System needs no defense, not even for its version of Shinobi. Phantasy Star was ahead of its time with a multi-world RPG and a female protagonist. That
Yes, good
Very
point.
true.
Yeah, good, very
Very good point.
true.
Very
At
true.
that time, yes, yep, very true.
Then we have Gerald back again, $5 super chat. Oh hell, the ILP Ains, I saw your game room video, effing awesome. Yes, that is something to behold. Ains
I told him in the chat I
need.
need to do that's like 2 years old now. I got to do an updated one.
Nice. Then we got Gerald back again, $5 super chat. All hell the ILP, y'all young men making me proud. I'm 51 on Monday. Happy birthday to you, sir.
Salute,
Happy
Joe.
birthday.
OG Talk. Happy birthday.
And don't worry, I'm right behind you. Right behind you.
Exactly. He ain't that far behind.
I'll take
you
anybody
can see
calling
that
me
gray.
young. I'll take that.
Anyone calling me young, it feels good.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
What else we got?
There we have Big Cloud Gaming, $5
Big
super
Cloud.
chat. Salute, family. Thank you, sir. Salute to you as
Big
well.
Cloud. Salute to you, brother.
Then we got Heated Heavy 505, $10 super chat. Got to get back to work, but when you talk Genesis games, can you talk about Shadowrun?
Yes.
I love
Right
that
there,
game.
baby. We right there, right on
we
time.
right there.
Right. Is that the last one?
Yeah.
Perfect transition. So the year is 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And something mega happens.
Nice.
I'm gonna set this thing up. There was this console that came out right on this side, and it was a revolution. It was a revolution for its time. Very aggressively marketed, very powerful. You know, some extreme standouts. But I gotta start my man's thing. Like, this was Sega for you. This brought you back to the fold. So tell
This
me
brought
about this
me-
Genesis.
I've told this story before. Now I'm 17 years old, and now I'm still at home. You know, my dad at the time was working for a toy store. It was like the back end of him working at a toy store. And I'm like, Dad, I still want to get it. I want to get an NES. I see everybody else playing an NES. I'll get it. He brought home a Genesis, and I'm like, what is this?
This is
I'm
not
like, this
what
is
I
not
want.
what I. It's not what I asked for. I wanted an NES because I wanted, what everybody else was playing.
Mhm.
And this was the one that came with. Hey, bud. This is the one that came with Altered Beast. So that was the original package.
Rise from your grave.
And I'm like, all right, my dad's like, I brought it home, play it. All right. So I get it plugged up. And as soon as I start Altered Beast, and I played Golden Axe in the arcade, but I had never played Altered Beast for whatever reason. I can't remember if it was just never there or
Same.
or what have you.
Same thing there. Mhm.
And I knew Sega from the arcades, but it was a Genesis. It was like, it wasn't Nintendo. This wasn't, it was like, what did they, I had long since stopped going to the arcades for those older games. I was going for newer stuff. So turned on, started the game, and the rise from your grave. And I was like, yes. And and your character,
I remember everything.
Mario is like this big. Your character is like,
Yeah, it's huge.
is like this
Talk about
big.
those sprites. Let's
Sprites.
go.
Oh my god. And just the action and all the stuff going on. I'm like, my jaw was just like, I was just in
Power
and that
up.
was it.
Yeah, power up.
When he turned in, and then when he turned into the wolf,
And the cinema.
Oh,
oh my god. So I, from that moment on, denounced anything Nintendo. At that moment,
That was it.
it was all Sega all the time. It was, I had the original set of games that I had gotten were Pat Riley basketball,
Whoa.
Tommy Lasorda baseball,
Baseball.
Yeah.
good game.
Scaling bang baseball.
Tasmania, which was
Okay.
which at the time no one had done anything like that.
Animation was crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was this little known game called Decap Attack.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that just hooked me. And from then on, that is where I spent I transitioned out of PC gaming for that. Like, I was playing Doom and Quake and all this, and I left all that behind to become a Sega guy. And the rest is history.
Is history, brother. Oh my God. Let's get to it. But who want to jump in next on this that system, that mega system?
I got a kind of goofy story I can share. I think I've told you guys this before, at least Sullivan Cog maybe, but so big Sega Master System, right?
Mhm.
Genesis comes out. It came out like a couple months before the holidays in '89 in the US, right?
Mhm.
And really wanted one, of course, right? I had played Altered Beast, and I was like, oh my god, arcade graphics, you know what I mean? Like, I was hyped. And KB Toys looking over the counter, dreaming every day.
KB Toys.
KB Toys.
And so, no joke, right? It's like maybe late November, Thanksgiving, whatever, first week of December. And my mom was a hairdresser. She worked late. She worked all the time. And my friends would come over and hang out at my house when we play Master System. And I was like, let me snoop around for Christmas presents. And I started doing that as a kid. Found in the closet the Genesis. She had it from that lady at KB I mentioned earlier, right? And I got like ridiculously excited. And to cut this a long story short, right? One night I got real, I did kind of a dumb thing as a kid, but you do things as a kid. And I was like, I can't wait. I just can't wait. So I literally took it out.
Protocol?
Wow.
Me and my friends, like, she was working till like 8 p.m. I still haven't told her this. I'm 43 years old. He hooked it up.
Wait, was it wrapped in packaging?
No. It was the box.
Oh, just the box. Okay,
box.
so you okay.
Yeah. Dude, I was like, all right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Time to do surgery. Yeah.
Surgery.
So we hook it up. We start play Altered Beast, and it had Ghouls and Ghosts sitting there too, which was a favorite of mine.
So good.
Right.
Oh my
right.
God.
Kids want to talk Dark Souls. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, super hard, right?
Super hard game. Continue.
So anyway, we did that for a few weeks, right? And eventually, we kept playing Altered Beast, and I'm like, I want to play Ghouls and Ghosts, but it's sealed. You know what I mean? I was like, I wonder if she'll notice if it doesn't have the seal.
It's the professional.
So
He had
cut that open too.
Yeah, he had a shrink wrap machine in his house.
So for a couple of weeks, we played Altered Beast and Ghouls and Ghosts before Christmas. Christmas morning comes, right? It's wrapped, everything. And I was like, I wonder what this is.
I wonder what this is that I haven't played.
Open it up. You know,
Fake
my
surprise.
Best acting job ever.
It was probably horrible. My mom's kind of, she's a sweetheart. But she's not paying attention to details, right? So hook it up. And like that night, I remember again running through Ghouls and Ghosts. Because I just love that game. I ran through it. She's like, you beat that already? She was all disappointed. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's just pretty easy or something.
I didn't play it 32 other times.
So, but
That's awesome.
at Genesis, I know we're all we share a lot more stories, but Genesis was, and people remember, right? In the U.S., Genesis came out over 2 years before Super Nintendo did.
Yes, it did.
So Genesis was such a much more, as Mike said, a much more advanced experience than the NES, which was still kind of raging. And there's so many different things I know we're going to touch on that Genesis is just my other jam. 8 and 16-bit eras for me with Sega are like king.
Yes.
As much as we'll get to the others, but so I won't take up all the time. But I've got plenty more I could share.
I'm curious on Steven with this. I'm very curious with Genesis with you. For some reason, I'm very intrigued. I want to know where you were at that point in your life, and did you get it around launch? Did you get it later? Did you not get it? Like where were you at when Genesis dropped?
So I'm like you guys a lot in that Sega and the Master System and Genesis were like my two big Sega systems. So when we got Genesis, similar experience to like Altered Beast, like blew our mind. It was like graphically like just incredible. The thing that stands out for me about Genesis is that it really introduced me to sports video games.
Yeah.
Because like Lakers versus Celtics, I don't know, that game like blew my mind. Like I thought the graphics on that were amazing, the ball handling and stuff. And then I was a Canadian kid, like NHL hockey.
Yes.
Because before NHL hockey and Lakers versus Celtics, games were like Wayne Gretzky hockey, which had like some approximation of like pro players, but they were really, it was like, Bob Gretzky or something.
Bob Gretzky.
And, so when NHL came out, it had real players, like players had real skills.
Yes.
Like, right? Like they actually had different stats. That, like, that just like totally like
NHL 94, the blood.
Yeah. Yeah, I still remember the movie Swingers where Vince Vaughn.
Yes, when they
make fun of the guy, with the fighting.
Make his head bleed.
That was a big thing back then. And then prior to that, the 93 was the Players Association one. But 94,
the NLPA,
right. But the 94 really was like the perfect, because it was the perfect match. You had the teams, the players, and true story. I tell this story all the time. My gaming history, like no one can tell me about gaming because I never listen. We saw for the South, bro. There was no hockey going on.
Yeah, it's like that going down.
But when the EA Sports game, EA Sports, remember EASN,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Yellow-
the logo
yellow-
was awesome back then. Yeah.
Yellow tabs.
EA Sports.
Yeah.
It's in the game. You had
It's
the
in the
yellow
game, yeah.
tab on the cartridge. They were shaped different.
Yep.
And the thing about it, it was just like, it was so transformative, and they were so well done. They made me get interest in the sport of hockey. That's how
Yes.
fun those games.
Wow.
I learned what a one-timer was. I went to my first hockey. All that's because of NHL. Like, I
That's
didn't know
pretty cool.
anything about the sport. I loved it. And shout out, I became a bandwagon Pittsburgh Penguins fan.
I know.
because
Gretzky's still better. It's okay.
I know, Ames. We had that debate, but in my childhood mind, that number 66 was unstoppable. And that
He was.
You know what I'm saying? Like that team that they had was enough. But I'm gonna give it back to you, Steve. Continue your story.
No, that was really like those like really transformed like gaming for me. The other one that really stands out in Genesis is Flashback, which
Oh, yes.
Great.
but actually
Yes.
Under the End is kind of inspired by actually in terms of like movement and delivery.
Really?
And stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So like Flashback, that was like, to me and these are subtle things. Like you could actually take a rock and throw it,
Yes.
and then the guard would like turn around and look at the rock, and then you could like shoot him. And everything was so deliberate, but it wasn't as deliberate like as Prince of Persia. It was a little more fluid, and you had a
Right.
gun, which was cool, and like yeah,
All
it was
rotoscoped.
all rotoscope,
Yeah.
like incredible amount of work, and pixel wise was beautiful, animation was beautiful. No hand holding at all, just like play the game,
No.
figure out how to
You
jump,
didn't even.
figure out how to
I don't
run,
even think there
nothing,
was
like
there wasn't even a opening cutscene. It just dropped you in the
Yeah.
game and
you're
said,
just playing this thing and totally unconventional controls. It wasn't like Mario where you like jump and run. It's like,
Yeah.
like you had to like sprint and then like hold the A button and you
Yes.
launch from the thing,
Yes.
like, grab on the ledge. It was nuts. Yeah.
Remember
"One
the
of my favorite
cinematics,
Sega
even.
CDs."
Yeah, remember the
Oh.
cinematics in the game.
They were like we'd reach for a card or you
Yes.
reach with your hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just awesome stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. I also want to call.
yeah.
What? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that was the sequel to Out of This World that started that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean,
You know how I
the-
feel about that.
I know you
The,
do.
uh,
That's why I said it.
I literally fanboyed out. I met Eric Chahi in real life.
Oh,
that
that's
that
cool.
man
Oh,
changed my
very
life. Like
cool.
that game, you know, what is it? Max or Robot? Like that game changed my life. Like that's why I found you, Steven, and
Yeah,
unto the
because of that
end.
one, yeah.
I wrote you I wrote this man a Bible when I found out. I was like, look, I don't know what happened to your game, but I'm looking for it. This game reminds me of a childhood favorite, and it was Another World. It was, again, that atmospheric storytelling. The game doesn't tell you what's going on, and those are kind of the vibes unto the end gave me. And I was just like, yo, I've missed when games were like that. So
Right.
to Mike's point, yeah, Another World was, oh my God, that was, and it was made by one person.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But continue.
Yeah, an interesting story about that guy, like Another World. So the character in Under the End is an aside. His hair is red because of Another World, or Out of This World, some people call it. But Eric actually made that game one room at a time. Like he had no idea where the game was going to go. I watched him give a design talk once. He would like design a room and get it to like the way he wanted, and then he would do the next thing. And that's actually why the story is quite organic.
Yes.
Like it kind of like goes all over
All
the place. And the ending, and because that's kind of how he did it. I wanted to see if Cog, you and Salva played this one, Budokan.
Oh, EA's Budokan. Yes.
Do you remember that, like the bow staff? And
Yeah,
that was
bro.
like that
Oh.
blew my
It-
mind.
He got stories.
It had good intentions. It did.
it was ambitious
Yeah,
for its
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know, funny quick story, you know, at that time, you know, look, your kids, finances are not there.
Sure.
All you guys have consoles. So the plan was we all got together, okay, I'm gonna get Revenge of Shinobi. You know, we're gonna get into that age, but you know, you know, this one's gonna get Space Harrier. This, you know, you split up so everyone could trade amongst each other. That was the thing. You trade games with your friend and stuff like that. And we told one of our friends to get something. I think what are the games? And both of them come back with Budokan.
Oh man.
And we were like, why? You know what I'm saying? But to its credit, it was actually not that bad. It was just
tried.
very difficult.
Yes,
Very
it was.
difficult.
Super difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, very, but it was of the Bloodsport vein, the competitive martial arts,
Yeah.
the bow, they
Cool
had
animation
fencing.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So
And at the time, they were doing those multiplayer games like Kings of the Beach and stuff like that, and so that fit their mold for those And it was in that box like
The
the boxes to your left shoulder.
yes.
And those EA boxes.
The EA ones, yeah, man.
Those were tight boxes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were. There's
Cardboard,
something
right?
about them, right? I mean, this sounds really stupid, I realize, but like they actually had like a different film on them,
Yes.
and they had different cover art.
Yep.
And as you already pointed out, they had the
Yellow
awesome
tab,
cartridge.
there's yellow tab, baby.
tab,
Yeah,
yep.
man, they're just special. And I think what was really cool about these, not to take us on a tangent, right? But the reason I put these out among all the games I have is that the Nintendo side, you know, that we talked about it, right? Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, and that kind of extended in, especially with the SNES era and Final Fantasy, right? But Genesis had these really unique Western RPG experiences,
Yes.
like the ones above there. King's Bounty is I put so many hours into that game. But it had like Populous. Remember Populous?
Yes.
Oh,
Super
man.
advanced.
Popular.
Yeah.
The God game, like you were.
They got
Mhm.
game,
Yeah.
Peter Molyneux.
The
Peter
Immortal.
Molyneux early, yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep,
yes.
Peter
Yeah.
Molyneux.
And
The
it just had
Immortal.
had all these kind of unique experiences, and that felt like you can't get those anywhere else outside of PC at the time.
Mhm.
But man, it's just God, I could go on
We
forever.
Go on
So
with
many
it, like
games.
Solve. I'll give it to you because when I go, I'm gonna take too long to
Yeah.
solve.
So
What's up, Genesis?
Genesis is special to me because I got it. I didn't get it when it launched. I got it the following summer. And it was the first console that I purchased for myself.
Oh,
So I was like, 13, 14. And I was lucky in that when I worked summers, I worked at my dad's company and they would pay me $250 a week. Right. So for a
Damn.
13-year-old kid
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
making $1,000 a month, you're like, oh my God. Because again, all of my friends,
He the Iron
including
Bank
Cog,
for a reason.
yeah, all of my friends, including Cog, right, got stuck working what we call summer youth.
Summer
Yeah,
youth, yes.
yeah. And summer youth, I don't think you even made $200 every 2 weeks or something like that. It was something like that.
There was
You
a limit.
Maybe,
Yeah.
you maybe made $500 a month. So I was rolling it. So I was so happy. But so I was super excited to buy it for myself. Say, Dad, I'm going to get this for myself. I said, okay, fine, no problem. So I remember the Friday I got paid. I'm like, this is the day I'm going to buy it. I told my boss and everything, look, I'm going to buy the Sega Genesis. He was so excited for me. He's like, you want me to call for like a different pricing for you? I'm like, sure. So he's like, he calls the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz. He calls them.
Oh, the Wiz.
And he's like, yeah, so when you say nobody beats the Wiz, you mean that literally? And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, we'll price match, but it has to be like a store that's equal in stature to us. You know,
Stipulations.
That's where the qualifications
Oh,
come in.
yeah.
I was like, whatever. So again, I went to the Wiz, and it was essentially my entire check, right? Because I didn't understand the concept of tax at that time.
Yeah,
I
you
thought
thought
it was
what was that? How much was
$199. It was like $200.
$199. It was a $200
Yeah.
console, right?
It was so it was $200, and then with the tax and everything, that was my check. So I was short on my transportation money for the following week. So I look at my dad, and back then it was tokens, it was train tokens.
Yes.
So he's like, all right, I'll buy your bag of tokens for next week, but you got to pay me at the end of next week. I'm like, fine, no problem. So we pick up my Sega Genesis. I'm so happy. And on Fridays in the summertime at that job, we got out early. So it was 1:00. So we left early. You know, we were back in the Bronx by like 2:00. I had my system and everything. So my dad's like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with the boys over at the garage, right? His friends at the garage. So I'm just gonna stop there for a little bit. Mind you, the garage is maybe, I don't know, 5 blocks away from my house, but I was not gonna go by myself with my console, so I had to stay with my dad.
Oh no.
So 20 minutes turned into like 4 hours.
Oh man.
And I'm sitting there. I'm looking through the car window, looking at my console, and then I can't play. And my dad, and I'm looking at my dad like, you know what you're doing to me. Right? You know what you're doing.
This is torture.
So it's torturing me. So I finally get it home.
Let's go.
I had whatchamacallit, Altered Beast. And Altered Beast, despite not being the greatest game ever, but it was a graphical showpiece. It was
a launch game.
It was.
For a launch game that's supposed to show you what the console can do, it was perfect.
And
at
two
that.
players
Yes,
players?
exactly.
Yeah.
So myself and
Yeah.
Kaibatsu got in there, and we were having a loads of fun. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get our next sort of set of games until a little bit afterwards. And I just remember the first ones being, shout out to you guys for what you said about the sports. It really did bring me into like the sports gaming genre. I've always loved baseball. I played baseball my entire life. I forgot to mention great baseball and Reggie Jackson baseball on the Master System.
Reggie Jackson, man. Yeah.
Reggie Jackson.
Which I love. We used to go
Forgot
and
about
and
that.
fight the
Yeah.
I was jealous of Bases Loaded for the fighting.
Bases
I would
Loaded
say
was
that.
nice. Yeah.
But I love the Master System games. And obviously World Series baseball on the Genesis was huge for me. And like getting to play Tommy Lasorda and stuff early on, I loved as well.
Tommy Lasorda was so good.
So good.
So good.
It was
So good.
It was so good. But
That was one of the few games I rented multiple times with my single weekend rental I would get at Blockbuster.
Exactly. When you used to go to the mom and pop rental shop
Or the supermarket. You could rent games from the supermarket back then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the one that was transformative for me in terms of sports games was Joe Montana Sports Talk.
Oh yeah, sports talk.
Oh my Lord. It just that game and the fact that when you made a great play, it would zoom in and scale inward. I'm like, how is this doing this? Possible to me.
That was peak graphics at that point. I think the consistent thing that we're saying a lot with Genesis is the big sprites.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? If you really, because I mean, just to cut in you, that was another reason why I'm like, why did I like Last Battle so much? Like, it
wasn't good.
It wasn't a great game.
It wasn't not a good game.
Why was I little, young me and fat? And again, it was, you power up, you got jacked, and then, he's doing it. And it was the speed of the game and the sprites. They were so large. And we're coming from Mass System and NES, and you're used to these little rinky-dink kind of characters. And then you're seeing these almost full screen beasts of sprites. But continue, Sav. I just had to mention that. I was trying to figure it out.
I think that's so true because, again, it was the first time that you really, the thing that you had in your house was at least somewhat comparable
close
to the arcade. It was like, oh my God, we're there, right? We weren't quite there, but in your mind, you're there. And, you're playing Golden Axe and you're playing Contra and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, that console for me, it really kind of opened up my eyes to a bunch of different types of games in the same way the Master System did. Because again, like we talked about, the Master System wasn't afraid to put games on there that maybe didn't belong there, right?
Yeah, facts.
And I think the same was true of the Genesis. The Genesis, it took a lot of risks on these consoles, not knowing what would sell or not. Obviously, there was a lot of side-scrolling games, action games, but you got a lot of weird stuff like Herzog's Wii and like
Herzog's Wii,
RTS games and stuff of that nature.
I was going to mention Herzog. You beat me to it.
No, but I'll let you go in depth on that one. But for me, the stuff that really stuck out was the side-scrolling stuff, right? Yeah. And I was a little bit older at this time, and I'm kind of moving away from the kiddie games. But one that brought me back wholeheartedly I could not deny the quality of was Castle of Illusion.
Oh yeah,
Mouse.
Great game.
One of the most beautiful, to this day, one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. An amazing side-scrolling experience, a platform experience. Absolutely blew me away. And then again, talking about all the other stuff that, like, the arcade sort of conversions, the Golden Axe, playing stuff like Ninja Turtles and things of that nature.
The real Ninja Turtles.
Exactly. The real Ninja Turtles.
Thing.
It was, man, there was just so much on that console that just kind of blew me away. When you talk about the RPGs, the people that played the original Phantasy Star, and you play Phantasy Star 2. We like, oh my Lord.
Somebody mentioned Landstalker and the
Landstalker.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Shining in the dark.
The isometric.
Shining in the dark.
Shining in the darkness.
What was the D&D game?
Yes, I have it. Let me go grab it.
What was it called?
Game. Which one?
Grab it.
I'm gonna go get it. I'll be right back.
Grab it. Because there was so many. What was it?
While he's doing that, Sav, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So since you were a big baseball guy, and you just talked about Joe Montana, what was it like? Because I remember what I was like when that first time
Sports Talk Baseball.
I
I was an assassin with the Texas Rangers, right? We had like Julio Franco, Rafael Palmeiro, Juan Gonzalez, Kevin Reimer.
Wow, we're taking it back.
These like I love that game so much, and it was the same thing.
Was
it was so good. All of those games were so amazingly good.
Can we just?
And it was like, how did they get the commentary
so
right?
well?
So
can
right?
we just admit
perfect.
that? Like, I think both of you touched on it. Steven touched on it. Ainsley would definitely agree. Like, they were the de facto sports kings.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, no doubt. No.
I wish
doubt.
Bill was here, because if Bill would be like, we had him on ILP, we're doing his history, and he's talking about being on Army base with a Genesis, and the NHL, the Lakers versus Celtics, you know what I'm saying, like the Madden, Madden, y'all, Madden debuted, you know what I'm saying, going up the down screen, the ambulance comes on, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, and all the sports, like even as good as Rocky was on the Master System, Buster Douglas.
Buster
Douglas
was
was
amazing.
a launch title.
It was
a
another
launch title.
showpiece.
Showpiece. The
So
sprites,
good and it played so right. These guys were they were almost as big as the actual as the actual boxers.
Like, was Buster Douglas the one you could make your own boxer, and you could make like a green mutant guy, and then like Buster Douglas you'd like fight all the way through, and then you'd get the title, but your guy actually aged.
Yes.
He actually aged.
Yes, I remember this.
He's
right.
You're
right.
Time, and you had to keep defending, and you get older and older and slower. Like, that was such a cool idea.
Such a cool guy. Their boxing games are good. I mean, Greatest Heavyweight.
Greatest Heavyweight was amazing.
Greatest Heavyweight.
Oh my god,
great.
Do you guys remember? These were a little more obscure, but I know that I remember. Cog remembers, because we would. Sometimes we'd go purchase games, and we look for the obscure ones, like the ones that not everybody went after.
Which one?
It was one called Midnight Resistance.
Ooh,
that was so much fun.
Remember that one?
Yeah,
very good.
And then the other one was, what the heck is it? Oh, Mystic Defender.
You stole mine.
I'm sorry.
No, bro. It was, again, early launch title, I would say.
Yes, those very early games.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about the sprites. But the thing about that game that was crazy, because he had the magical powers, like they would extend on the character, and he would have fireball. It was a very dark game too. It was a very ambitious.
Actually, a sequel. It's a sequel to a Master System game.
I never knew that.
Yes, I forgot the name of the original game, but
knew that. Okay, yeah, Mystic Defender, absolutely, yeah, that was great. I'll jump in real quick. I'll give this thing. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Streets of Rage here.
Oh, wait! All right,
there would
hold
be
on.
major problems if we didn't.
Oh my God!
The
chat would leave.
Yeah, the chat. I mean, look, this is the days, and Final Fight ruled in the arcade, if I remember.
Yeah, it did.
It was 2-player. Again, the thing about Genesis, we talked about the sports, we talked about the sprites, but as we alluded with Master System with Double Dragon, with the 2-player co-op, Genesis was able to bring a 2-player beat 'em up with graphical fidelity and some of the most amazing music we've ever heard, Stig, right?
Oh my God.
Can we get to it?
But before we do that, can we talk? I mean, you've touched on something. Can we talk about how good the sound chip in the Genesis was?
Yeah.
And I remember the first game that really
Which one?
did it for me, and Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Moonwalker.
The fact that it was like I played that game just to listen to the soundtrack.
Yep.
Because it was so close.
So good.
And so different from the arcade. The arcade was a whole different game than the Genesis.
Yes, it was. Yes.
But the soundtrack was so amazing. And Michael Jackson, I mean, he
was a Sega fan.
He worked with Sega on that game to do that. I mean, but those and somebody mentioned it in the chat. Sword of Vermilion.
Oh my goodness.
The opening, I would just let the opening
dragon
credits just
play.
run, because it hits you with this and a bolt of thunder. And then it went into the building, and I was like, "Oh my God!" That's stuff that gets the hair on the back of my neck going.
Goosebumps, brother. Bro, like they had a lot of RPGs. Yeah, I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong with sort of a. wasn't it a double perspective game? Was it like a what are them games I thought was? Maybe I'm mixing up my games. I thought that
You
one
might be
game.
thinking of you think of
Fantasy
Might and
Star.
Magic.
I thought it had
Might
like
Magic
I thought
was
it
like a
had
dungeon
side
crawler.
scrolling and then it had another part of it. But maybe I'm wrong. I could be confused.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But
oh, by the way, Mike, here's the D&D game. It's Warriors of the Eternal
There
Sun.
it is. Warriors of the Eternal Sun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my
That was a
goodness.
great game.
Yeah,
I actually
Great
picked
game.
that up recently. No joke. Like
Mhm.
just recollecting
Oh.
stuff.
Yeah. and
But I got to touch on Fantasy Star too.
Please.
Yeah.
let's
You know
to
I
it.
got
Let's
to.
get to it.
So, so another true story. Fantasy Star 1 we talked about, right? We're
Mhm.
going into what was that store in the malls that specialized in movies, like
Suncoast.
What?
Suncoast.
Suncoast. That's it. That's it.
Mm.
So we were walking through the mall, me and my mom again, a couple after Genesis came out, right? And walking to Suncoast. You remember they started selling games for a short period of time.
Mhm.
And I walk in there, and you joked about it earlier, Carl. Back then, you didn't know what was going on. Games just appeared in stores, and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, what's that?
Mhm.
So I saw Fantasy Star 2, and immediately I was like,
It
oh my
hit you.
God, they made another one.
They made another one.
The
They made
sequel to my
another one.
beloved.
Like, and it was what was it, $90?
No, bro.
You know what I mean?
I was super expensive. Yeah.
yeah, and it came with the big hint book
hit book,
sealed in it.
6 mega cartridge.
Yeah,
That was a big deal. Remember
And
the
I, and I
6
held it
mega.
in my hands, and I saw
mega.
the price, and all my mind was like, I know I can't get this, but I really want to get this.
Super expensive.
And my mom ended up got it for Christmas that year, and I just remember, going through that game. That is an epic game again. And a great follow up to the first one. So that's one of my just all time favorites.
So good. Very hard bosses at the end. Remember Mother Brain, Dark
Mother
Force?
Brain,
yeah.
yes.
Woo!
But that game's just hard in general.
Yeah.
you're
Super
just
hard,
getting
yeah.
through some
Yeah.
of those
I
areas.
ain't gonna lie though. When they died, it messed me up. It messed me up. When I lost the day first. Remember that day first. Yeah, we continue.
No, you're fine. The other thing, there's so many games we can talk about. Genesis, Genesis went on for years. You know what I mean?
Such a long run.
And I know Mike can touch on Sega CD and all those things better than I can. But going back to NHL real quick.
Let's go.
NHL was like life changing because I played hockey, I still do. And as a hockey player, like Steven said, it's just completely different than anything that had come before it, right?
Yeah.
And at the time when I got into like NHL 94, 95, I was on a ice hockey team that traveled. And we used to take a bus to up the northeast, like Boston. We'd go to Canada sometimes, south, and we'd play. And on the bus, we'd usually have like one TV. And we figured out on our team how to hook up a Genesis to
that's
that
awesome.
TV. And we could play
On the
on the bus. And we,
that
so
network
every road
engineering.
trip
Look at that
became
engineering
like,
kicking in.
all right, we got 4 games this weekend. We also got an NHL tournament we got to settle, and we would have a bracket of tournament of NHL that we would
Oh, that's
play
awesome.
I love this.
every time we would travel, and so just great memories with those games, man.
Bro, the competitive, I think because of that, like it brought out the competitive scene, the aspect in a lot of gamers, you know what I'm saying? Because this is, the couch co-op, the couch next to each other competitive days, very, thing. I'll be remiss if we didn't forget, before we I'm gonna get into my games, but I think Sting will appreciate this, is that Genesis also was special to me because, again, at the time, if new console came out, you had to leave the stuff behind. But there was this thing called the power-based converter. And as a Master System fan who didn't get rid of it and had all these great games, you plunked that big contraption on top of your Genesis. It had the little lid, remember?
Yes.
And you put your red and black Sega Master System games. So backward compatibility, don't quote me if I'm wrong. I want to say it debuted. I don't know if they were the first. But I remember it being a big deal to me that I could still play my Master System games on Genesis. I think even the card games, they had a slot.
The cards worked as well.
The cards worked as well.
Yep. That was one.
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't much. I mean, you can't really count the ColecoVision because the expansion port on the ColecoVision played Atari 2600 carts.
Right.
So you really couldn't count that. The Genesis really was one of the first that truly had a backward compatible to its predecessor.
Yes, to its predecessor. Like, I've never seen that at the time. I thought that was so cool. We talked about sports, and I know, again, this is still, we're before broadband at that time, but I don't know if you guys remember X-Band.
Yeah.
And X-Band was a huge deal for me because, again, like when the NBA Lives came out and that stuff, you know, provided mom wasn't using the phone while you were playing, because you had to put your phone jack in, your 14.4, your 33.6, whatever you had going on, and you could play. It was they had their own online infrastructure, and you could play it through Genesis, and that was a big deal, you know, for us.
Sega Channel.
The Sega Channel.
Yep.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know about any of this stuff.
Yeah, the Sega Channel was, I mean, literally that was Sega pushing the boundaries of distributing games digitally.
Yes.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
was it
in
in
the
Canada
90s.
or was that only in the States, you think?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I never
I
heard
don't
about any of that at all. That's interesting.
Yeah, you could subscribe, and literally there was a selection of games. I mean, it's like
cool.
it's crazy, right? When you think about it now, 30 years ago, but it was getting games to people digitally.
Yes.
Wow, that is unbelievable. Yeah.
And then again, for me, coming off again now the games wise, again coming off Master System, I already told you everything there with the learning. Genesis closed the gap. You know, so as far as the arcade stuff, I remember to get in the Super Hang On and be like, okay, this is really close. You know what I'm saying? I gotta talk about Revenge of Shinobi. Yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like this is Yuzo in his bag. I remember the opening screen, the music, the cinema, the thunder, it blocks this thing. And like they were breaking all type of rules. They had Batman and Terminator likenesses and Spider-Man. Like they were breaking all type. Sega was very aggressive. And
They were.
That thing we could be they're aggressive. The commercials, y'all. Like this was an era. Besides, Sega does what Nintendo don't. Like this was an era they would put the competition in their commercial and disparage them.
Yes.
Like that was really like you don't hear of that. I don't even know legally if you could do that now. Like could like Xbox put a PlayStation in their and just disrespect? Like Sega was ultra aggressive.
Yeah, they were.
Ultra. Yes.
Very.
So
I forget the guy, Mike, you may know their CEO's name, but I mean, he was tasked with, in North America, right, making Genesis the place to play and taking
Tom
that
Kalinske.
market share
Tom
from
Kalinske.
Tom Kalinske.
He went after it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, we're celebrating, but Tom Kalinske leaving Sega because of Sega of Japan was what started the downward spiral.
Decline.
Yeah.
That man was an absolute ruthless genius.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he knew exactly what to do, how to do it, and he was responsible for bringing. I mean, think about it. At the time, the Nintendo Entertainment System had the market cornered because they were strong arming third parties and that's why the Sega Master System did not fare well, because they couldn't get third parties to make stuff for them.
True.
Good point.
The Genesis changed all of that.
I agree.
And that's why you see as much multi-platform stuff as you do today.
Yeah.
Sega did so much that revolutionized the game industry over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And then for me, some other little obscure ones. This one, I don't know if y'all remember. I don't know if Soft maybe, but this was a very obscure, because at the time, graphical fidelity was like, okay, like Ain said with Phantasy Star, the 6 mega cartridge. Then we got into the 8 mega cartridge.
We sure did.
Oh, right? Of course.
And for me, Strider was a huge deal. Graphically, huge deal. Very close to arcade. But
the movement too in Strider was fantastic. Like the acrobatics and stuff you could do was way ahead of its time.
Yeah, the sliding,
the animation, it was crazy.
It was the big bombastic bosses.
Yeah, it was great.
It was crazy. The sword thing, like that was crazy.
The only thing that annoyed me about Strider is it got real hyped up. Remember, it was the thing.
Super hyped up.
Yeah, and I got it. Amazing game, right? I beat it the first night.
So easy,
yeah. And I was like,
I threw King out my house. He beat that.
I was like,
that was my game. He beat on the first day. I was very upset. I was not happy with him. I bought it the first day. He beat it in my face. I was so disgusted. I'm gonna throw an obscure one though. Soft. See if you remember this one. We're forgetting they also were good with the space shooters.
Oh yeah! Oh come on!
Now I know y'all know about the Techno Forces, right? Remember the Techno Forces?
Thunder Force.
Thunder Force. Excuse me, right?
Yeah. Thunder
2 and
Force,
3, right? There was an obscure one that I love. It was so hard, but it looked so good. It was called Gyrus.
Gyrus, yeah.
Gyrus.
8 meg. And what was so unique about it, Steven, right? I've never seen a game do this. Most shooters, you shoot the enemies, you get they drop something or something or whatever. This game, you had like a satellite thing, and you would send it at the enemy to attach, and you would take the enemy's ability. And you can even do it against bosses. I thought it was
really cool.
It was super
that's
revolutionary.
very, very cool.
Yeah, very much revolutionary. The bosses were very big, very graphically beautiful game. But yeah, that Guy Rush joint, crazy. And
R-Type.
Oh,
I thought you were going to say R-Type. Yeah,
how did I
R-Type.
forget R-Type?
Like, visually was insane. Like I thought that was like.
I mean, there's still. Really cool. I literally bought R-Type Final 2 for Xbox like 2 months ago. They're still making.
I forgot about that. And last first one I got was on the races. I used to like the Super Monaco series. I used to.
Super Monaco.
Monaco was awesome. Man.
Another
Monaco
showpiece.
Was really good.
Yeah, very
graphically good. I mean, it made me get into racing, doing pit stops, and I was like, "This is cool." Yeah, that was for me, man. Like it was so much. I could blow if anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna forget like 100
so many.
games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you guys remember her? I know someone already mentioned it, but Herzog's Why.
Yeah,
was from a real-time strategy standpoint. It's this weird name game, no idea what it was.
Yeah,
and you got it. And Mike, you were talking about soundtracks. You can still go back and listen to Herzog's Why soundtrack, and you'd be sitting there, all of a sudden, you're like, all right, your head starts nodding. You get into it. It's just really good. And that game was foundational. I think people may forget or not even know that game was foundational for RTS genre.
Exactly.
Later in the 90s, because I know one of the creators of Command and Conquer even talked about Herzog's Why in the past too. I mean, that's just an incredible game that is. The theme here today is underappreciated, right? It just keeps coming up.
Technosoft on its face was always underappreciated. I mean, those guys made some incredibly good games, and the Thunder Force games are their most popular. But a game like Herzog's Why was like so good, and people didn't buy it because they didn't understand it because the name didn't say what it was,
right?
So, but that company, man, another one that I really enjoyed that they made was Elemental Master. It was different. It was different. It was one of these. I don't remember how to. It was kind of an upward auto-scrolling game. You could shoot up or down. You could do magic. There was something like really. If you get a chance to find it cheap, it's part of the Renovation series. Renovation published it out here. Try it out. It's something. It's just something different.
Cool.
Yeah.
So.
I want to mention 2 other games, but if someone else wants to go ahead.
Go.
No.
So Shadowrun we touched on a bit. No, we didn't really talk about. And Shadowrun, like in terms of underappreciated, like really set a lot of the foundation for Fallout. Like if you think about it, and like Fallout's still going today, but Shadowrun, like the different choices you could make, the team you could put together, like kind of the dark kind of like vibe, that was an incredible game, I thought.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one I want to mention is Wonder Boy and Monsterland. And Wonder Boy was like Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog before Sonic, because Wonder Boy came from the arcade, right? But Wonder Boy and Monsterland had like these hidden doors. I don't know if you guys played it, but like you turn like have to knock in the air, and you find like the ceramic boots, and then you have to get the legendary boots. And the ending of that game, you had to jump up these invisible blocks all the way to a dragon, and you had to go like left, right. And it was, if you fell, you'd fall all the way down. You have to do the whole thing again. That was insane.
Brutal.
Did you play the remake, Steven?
Yeah, I did. I did play the remake. I thought
gorgeous.
It was really, beautifully done. Really beautifully done. Yeah,
bro, so crazy. The chat is on us. They're like, we didn't talk about.
I know
Sega Nomad.
So many.
So
many games are bringing.
Nomad. What about Road Rash?
Oh,
Road Rash.
So good. Yeah, the rivalries and stuff.
Oh my God! Yeah, Road Rash was great. That Road Rash on the Genesis and the 3DO were sort of
don't count that Sega Saturn version out, Soft.
True.
Count that Saturn version out.
We coming up. We get close. We get close.
One last
checking the time for dinner.
one last developer and game that I forgot to mention, and I would be remiss because this is the game that introduced me to this developer that I absolutely love. And that game is Gunstar Heroes.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And Treasure. The aptly named Treasure. Gunstar Heroes to this day I think stands as one of the best cooperative 2D
Yes.
action games.
Run and gun, yeah.
Run and gun action games, an absolutely beautiful game. I mean, to the point like the Genesis almost couldn't handle it with all the stuff
So
that was
much
going
going
on.
on.
Yeah.
Brain.
It had that classic slowdown. No doubt.
It had this.
Oh, yeah,
and
but
it was
still.
helpful. It was helpful in certain parts of the game.
Oh yeah.
But we'll talk more about Treasure during the Saturn
Yeah.
period. But yeah, I love that game.
And,
What about
if you're
Mike,
talking
you wanna
about
touch on
games
Sega CD, man? I would assume. Do you know? I can't speak to it too much. I know someone hit us up on Twitter and said, make sure you talk about how Sewer Shark was terrible.
No.
But
we're
full
gonna get into the
video-
night trap bag.
Yeah, no.
The full
You beat
motion
that
video
man.
was like again
That was a thing.
pushing
that was the
boundaries,
thing.
right?
Dude, the full, are we there yet? I mean, because we're still. I mean,
Oh,
there's
last
still
point I just
so
want to say.
much-
We're
yeah.
I know,
Please.
last one. I'm gonna give it right to
No.
you, Mike. We have to talk about just at the time, which was controversial. Genesis having Mortal Kombat with blood in it
Yes.
versus the Super. Like,
Absolutely.
that was a difference maker. That made
was
people
huge.
go to the console because how
100%.
big Mortal
And
Kombat was.
so much so because at the time that game came out, so at that point in time, the Super Nintendo had come out, and the Super Nintendo had Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was exclusive to their system for a long time until
Yes.
Hyper Fighting.
Correct.
And so everybody on the Nintendo side was like, "Ha ha!" you guys."
They was talking.
I'm working at EB Games at the time. It was Electronics Boutique. So it just changed over from Games and Gadgets to EB. And Mortal Kombat came out. And I swear everybody that I used to fight with that used to come into the store, I was like, yeah, how's your Mortal Kombat now? And I mean, I was like, with the sweat. Yeah, you guys sweat, we'll bleed. And it'll be all right. And oh my God. Yeah,
So
that
good.
was yes.
So good, man. We got
But behind me is the best version of a Mortal Kombat game, and I'll get it when we get up to the 32X.
All right, cool. So
I'll get it when I get
I
up
think
there.
we could we're still on Genesis, but we could transition probably now to, if you guys want to, the add-on, right? The add-on editions. Right now we're getting towards the tail end of the
I'm going to the
Genesis.
washroom.
Yeah, go for it, bro.
I'll be back. Yeah.
No
Oh
problem.
wow,
So
he's
go-
like Sega CD.
he's like, oh, this is my time. I'll be back.
It's like that woman that got up on the Xbox thing and said, "Oh, they're gonna talk about Halo."
They go to, I'll be back.
I'm gonna re-up my water very quickly.
Yeah, do your thing. We can bloviate. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it was a long run, right? This was a long, like, if you think, how long was it? And it's like Genesis had a good run.
It was six years in the U.S., a little longer in Japan, from what I understand, because it was like 88 to 94 in Japan,
Yeah.
89 to 95 in U.S., I think.
Yeah. So it was like, again, so now, other systems are coming out. Turbo's probably getting in the mix, I'm think, and TurboGrafx
Yeah.
CD. So the competition's now, Super Nintendo's starting to get low. So Sega's in a position where they're in this add-on thing. And I would pass it to you, Mike, as far as, the Sega CD. And I know that meant a lot to you. What you had,
It did.
tell me about that, because I wasn't rich enough to have it at the time. So
No, me
tell
neither.
Absolutely one of the most underappreciated add-ons I think I have ever seen on a system. And the reason for that is, the Sega CD had such potential when people developed it correctly for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know people didn't like the full motion video, but the pack-in for the Sega CD had Sherlock Holmes, and it was it was like watching TV show, and Sewer Shark was like playing a movie, and it just Ground Zero Texas was not just a play it movie. It was a shooter. It was like an Operation Wolf / it actually is more like Lethal Enforcers, but around a full motion video game.
Yeah.
And the thing that people forget about with the Sega CD is it had hardware in it to enhance the Genesis's hardware. So all the things that the Super NES could do with Mode 7, with sprite scaling.
Yes,
and stuff
they had
like that,
scaling
Right.
now. Genesis finally had it. Yes.
but it wasn't just scaling for sprites. It was scaling. It was also able to scale polygons. You started to see polygon games like Sylphid, which was an insane game. And we talk about soundtracks. I mean, this was when you started to hear names like Spencer Nielsen, and Tommy Tallarico. Now,
Yes.
Tommy Tallarico was doing Genesis stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he got a chance to get it, and it's really funny because Tommy's a friend of mine
Mm-hmm.
that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, and I did a show with him. We talked about music. The Terminator for Sega CD was one of the first games that had a rock soundtrack with electric guitar. That was Tommy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The things, in fact, this is one of my prizes.
Let's go.
Somebody mentioned Earthworm Jim in the chat.
Yeah.
My copy of Earthworm Jim Special Edition that is signed by Tommy.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was when I first met him, and it's weird that it's like I talk to him all the time, and we talk about this stuff because he knows my history in music. I'm a musician myself. I'm a keyboard player, so I love a good soundtrack. And the Sega CD did two things for me.
Let's go.
Number one, it brought me games that were just so mind blowing, but it brought me soundtracks that I had never heard before.
Yes.
And when I put in Sonic CD, which to me is the greatest, to me it stands as the best Sonic game they've ever made. And I all deference to Sonic Adventure, but there's something so special about playing Sonic CD because of the way that the levels were able to set up, because of the size of the CD, the past, present, and future, but then the soundtrack.
Amazing.
Just Spencer Nielsen was a special man, and Batman Returns. So Batman Returns on the Genesis was kind of a real not great game. Right. Right? It really wasn't. and it really wasn't.
Yeah, I mean that SNES game was great comparatively.
Yeah, the Genesis version not so much.
Not so much.
But when they added the driving sequences to the Sega CD,
Oh yeah.
it just was incredible. And somebody brought up Halo. Craig just brought up Final Fight CD.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was a huge
So,
deal.
a huge deal because number one, that one had all three characters.
Talk
Where the
to
Super Nintendo,
Guy, Hagar, Cody. Let's go.
it had just an amazing soundtrack that I ripped. I still play that soundtrack, but I want to listen to music. And it was so close to the arcade that and it added some of the corniest dialogue, but it was just that magical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, the Sega CD for me was just it was such a jump from what we were playing, and man, if it just had a little more time.
I forget.
And this is where Sega.
That's where we got. This is where we start the venture off.
Really
Good
started.
memories.
I mean, man. If they just had a little more time in the oven to get some of these crazy good games out. I mean, I've got some stuff that somebody mentioned Musha from the Genesis.
Yeah,
in the
Musha.
chat.
Yeah.
I've got the sequel, Robo-Alest, on the and I will tell you, it is hands down one of my top 3 shmups of all time.
Wow.
For so many reasons, and including the soundtrack.
Wow.
Mike, you got me on eBay looking at Sega CD. You gotta
Dude,
stop.
man,
I know he's bigger than fever.
It is.
Killing me.
I cannot. It is such a special thing to me what the Sega CD did, and I'll bring this over for brother Carlo, Italian Clowns, who said, "Don't forget to mention Eternal Champion."
Oh my God, yeah.
Challenge from the Dark Side.
Oh wow, yeah.
It actually had new stages, soundtrack, new moves. It expanded on the original. It was one of the few games that they didn't just slap onto the CD and throw a soundtrack on it. I could go all day on the Sega CD.
I love to hear it because it's a missing piece for me. Like I just didn't experience it. I mean,
me too.
King had everything. Same with me, Coco.
Yeah, like King had everything. So I remember the only vague thing I remember was going over there, being amazed, like you said, Sting, about the. Oh God, there it is. There it is. There it is. Sonic CD, baby. Let's go. But I just remember how amazing the sound was, the fidelity. Yes, there was the full motion craze that I as a kid, I did think it was a little cheesy. I'll be honest. I didn't gravitate to me that little craze that was going on, the night traps and all of that. I wasn't into that. But I do remember when I went to his house and I saw, and he was like, look at this Final Fight. arcade perfect. You got all 3 characters. You got the music. You got the stuff. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
wow, this is crazy. And I remember, it's sitting on top, and then the later iterations, it kind of
Yeah,
snaps
it's
on
on
the
the
side and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so again, I'm glad you educated us, brother, on that because
The original is still my favorite.
I like the original way it looked. It
Yeah.
looked
The
cool.
Model 1 where
the Model
it
1
stacks
where
up.
it had the tray that
The front,
opened up.
yeah,
and
yeah.
it felt like it was quality.
Yes,
I mean,
more premium. Yes.
yeah, it did. It felt so much more premium.
No, I'm with you, brother. I mean, that was a chapter, and then obviously we got to transition. Obviously, 32X. That was a thing. That was a thing. That now we moving on. The 16-bit era. You have 3DO now gets into the space. They're out there. Sega's under fire a little bit. So they got to do something, right? And then the 32X. Did anyone here own a 32X? I didn't, but I'm just asking if anyone had a 32X. Oh, Mike's got us. Mike's got us. Baby. That's why I brought Mike. I knew Sega had it. It's the original next level gaming right there.
See, I had a 3DO. I went to 3DO.
I went 3DO too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I can't remember where my. Oh, here it is. It's over here on the thing.
Let's go. There
Mike's,
it is.
Mike's rolling around the room.
Rolling
picking up
around the
parts.
I got it.
Woo! Talk to me.
No,
Give us the history, Mike.
All right. So now, admittedly, the 32X has not aged well. There's no doubt about it.
Let's go.
It was built because Sony was coming up with the PlayStation.
Yep.
Sega wanted to get the Saturn moving, but Sega of America was like, guys, the Genesis is still selling.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, fine, make a stopgap, and that's what Sega of America had to do, and they had to do it in like a year's time. They had no time to really develop this. It's amazing that the chipset in the 32X is what eventually would go into the Saturn. The
dual.
I've never owned one. Oh, so it's like
So-
it almost like
It's
the
like
power
the
based
power
converter.
cog.
It
Power
sits right
It's
down
like the
on
converter.
top.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I never seen
It was
one.
Mike. It wasn't it also a response to the Jaguar?
No, because the Jaguar came out 64-bit. The Saturn, it came out after the Saturn. The Jaguar came out after the Saturn.
After the Saturn? Okay. hold
Yeah,
on.
Mike knows.
Yeah, the
Trust me.
Dreamcast.
Yeah, I know Mike
kinda-
knows.
Mike
Yeah.
knows.
And the crazy thing too was, and this was something you didn't realize was, if you look on the back, there's actually 2 outputs and then the
Yes.
power.
Yes.
So you had to have 3 power bricks if you had a Sega CD. So you had one for the
Jesus.
Genesis, one for the CD, one for this.
Wow.
This had to go into the Genesis because the Genesis, many games used the 32X to do sprite scaling and colors and stuff. A lot of games used the Genesis to do backgrounds. So it relied on both sets of hardware. Now, there are some games that were actually really good. I had Star Wars Arcade, which was very much like the arcade.
Right.
Somebody did talk about Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
This is hands down the best version of Mortal Kombat
Wow.
ever.
I never even knew there was a 32X version.
Me
wow.
neither.
This is news to me.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
never knew
considered,
all about
that's
this.
considered like
Yeah.
the Mortal Kombat.
That's
Wow.
the definitive.
Look at that
That was
case.
the definitive
Look at that
Mortal Kombat.
case.
That's cool.
No, yeah, and this was a nice clamshell. It had a very nice manual. And the cartridges
Cartridges
looked
with
very
it, and they
much
had
like,
the same
yep.
labeling. Okay. So let me ask you this though, Mike. Technical question. So with the 32X, was there any games that required the entire Tower of Power, including the CD and the 32X, or they was still? Mike's got us covered. Mike's got us covered. I was just curious because I thought it was like independent. Did they rely? Because they were all forming on the foundation of a Genesis. So I'm just curious.
Night Trap used it, and I had Supreme Warrior, which was a full motion video kind of ninja kind of game.
It was a game.
I like,
but it was
That's
digital
sort of ninja
pictures, so
stuff.
I had to have it because it was digital pictures. And this was for the 32X, and if you had the Sega CD, so
if you didn't have the Sega CD, was it functional?
no, because the game came on CD.
So you had to have the Tower of Power. Wow.
If you wanted to play this particular game, you had to have both the
They
Sega
really
CD and
segmented
the
the
32X.
market here.
They did. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So now, all these games. Here's what's funny. All of these games have gotten, because they're really, you can't find a lot of these anymore. So some of these games have gotten expensive to collect.
Yes, they have.
I brought this one over. This is
Spider-Man?
the absolute crown jewel.
Oh,
of the
yeah, I heard about that.
32X collection. This is in. I have taken it out of the box once. This is currently worth $1,400.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Crazy.
Yeah.
So that definitive, like it was that, like
They just didn't make many
the
of
game
them.
was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
they
game
didn't
was
make many.
horrible. It was a terrible Spider-Man game, but it was one of the few games that had the Spider-Man license.
Yep.
That was licensed by Marvel, but this was made by Sega, and I don't know why they made this game, but I mean, there were some decent games on the 32X, but there was nothing that really made it what they should have done.
Gotcha. So the tech was there. I remember Virtual Fighter. I remember, what is it? Everything was the Virtua series. Virtual
Racing,
Yes.
which was good.
Yes.
Which was good.
Yes.
Doom.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Doom was but you got to remember, I was coming from playing on PC.
Yeah.
So Doom on the 32X to me was no good. It was like, this is horrible. And then the actual best console version of Doom that had come out before it got remade into newer consoles was actually the Atari Jaguar. That one was built off the PC engine.
Okay.
And Doom for the 32X was built off some engine that they had kind of cobbled together.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they and again, because this was a stopgap, so most developers bypassed it,
yeah.
and everybody that was making games for it really was just like throwing stuff together to try to get stuff out.
And it makes sense. It was a weird time. Like they were in between, because like you made a good point. The Genesis was still selling. The competition now is getting more powerful. They're trying to keep pace, right, Ains? And then it's like, but then it's hard to develop for something. Steve, you asked me, like, isn't it hard to develop something where the install base doesn't even have all the product itself?
Yeah.
So you're in this weird space, and I'm glad you educated on us, like, Mike, because I was again, there's a big gap in my Sega history, and I want to transition. Got to move on a little bit to Solve here, because this is where me and Solve split as Sega fans.
Yes.
We were.
This is where Cog betrayed us. Yeah.
This is where I et tu Brute Solve.
The great betrayal. Let's hear it.
This is the great. I was a traitor at this point. And look, as a kid, we the Sega love, the Genesis love. I just wasn't feeling the moves of Sega CD. It was just too expensive. I couldn't afford it. 32X, it didn't resonate. My eyes started to wander. Ains. I saw the 3DO.
Me and you were the exact same.
Yeah, I was leaning there. And then remember, Steven, we EA guys, we're liking the sports. EA makes the system. So
I'm bringing it over, Sav. I'm bringing it over. I got you back. I got you.
I'm about to give it. This is y'all. I know. So I'm now falling out of love with Sega. I'm getting upset.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I hear about the Saturn. And I'm like, okay. And Solve is in. I can hear. He's like, yo. And I'm like, secretly, I'm like, I don't know. I'm hearing about a PlayStation. So I got to transition to Solve, like 95, right? 95, I think.
Yes.
And now say the sad, like, what was it about? Tell me why you was invented, and let's get into the Saturn bag.
And Sav, I don't want to interrupt you, right? But let's remember that Sega jumped the gun.
Yes. So I'm about to talk about.
Sorry.
The
You're
worst.
Right, you're right.
The worst shadow drop in the history of shadow drops.
Let's get it.
Terrible.
This is horrible.
The console was set to release in late 95.
Yeah.
October 95. When they presented it at the very first E3 Expo, they said, surprise, we have 30,000 units that have shipped right now. They're in your stores right now at select retailers.
Yep.
And that did not go over well.
Nope.
With the fans, with the retailers that didn't receive any sort of stock, and even the retailers that did receive stock, because everything happened so quickly. They had no time to promote. It was just this piece of machinery that they had on their store shelves that no one really at this point still understood what it was.
Yeah.
They had announced it the year prior, but they really hadn't gone in depth. It just showed certain things about it, obviously Virtua Fighter, stuff like that. But everyone was just expecting E3 to be the blowout and then the release later on in the year, and it just sort of it took the wind right out of their sails.
Yep.
And at that very same E3, you'll remember the Sony executive,
Mm.
the
$299.
machine,
The death blow.
the Saturn was $299.
Mm-hmm.
The Sony executive walked up and said $199
$199.
and walked away.
And walked away.
And that was it.
And
That-
I walked with him.
That was one of the
Hey,
greatest.
that was brutal. I left.
No, it was brutal. It was one of the greatest tactical errors ever committed, and it basically caused Sega to implode at the beginning of the end for Sega. Right? Obviously, they had a bit of a renaissance with Dreamcast, but that ended way too quickly. But yeah. So
Let's give some love though. Let's give some 2D
all of
love
that
to
said,
Biscuit.
Yeah.
all of that said, so I was getting ready to go to college when it shadow dropped, and I didn't have the money to get it per se. I didn't have enough to get it. But to just going to show you how unpopular it was. I was able to get it used in
Like 3
July.
days later.
I was able to get it used in July for and it was like 2 controllers, like 3 games, like I believe I had a lot of stuff for less than it was retail.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it launched in May. So
And it launched in May.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was able to play it. I was able to play it for a couple of months before I headed out to school. And I went away to school, so I left it home. But in those few months, like I really did love what they had in store. Like obviously playing Virtual Fighter was not the best version of Virtual Fighter, and they later rectified that.
Yeah. Remix.
Remix. Yeah.
Remix.
And even, you know, again, Daytona, Sega Rally, things of that nature. Like all of the stuff that the beginnings of that true arcade experience promise were there. They just made some sort of mistakes in terms of how they wanted to market the machine. It reminded me of the N64 era, where it was like sort of like we're gonna stick with cartridges, and PlayStation is going with sort of like when you think about it now in retrospect, it's kind of the same thing, where this dual CPU sort of setup that they have for the Saturn was very difficult to develop for. It didn't have the polygon pushing power of the PlayStation.
That's what
But
mesmerized me.
what it really did well, that I was still in love with, was 2D games,
Yes.
And fighters.
and
Yes.
specifically the
They
fighters.
beat PlayStation in them 2D comparisons.
Yes.
That was
Oh,
back
yeah.
when I would read the Game Pros and the EGM,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and they would do a little side. I'm like, the Saturn versions, I have to give it to y'all, were always superior in the 2D space.
Yeah, the Saturn versions, especially when you know.
And I learned about missing animations because of the
Yes.
Saturn. Because the PlayStation had missing animations a lot of stuff. Continue.
Oh yeah, like when you compare the PlayStation version of Street Fighter Alpha to the Saturn version, it's kind of like comical, like the stuff that's missing from that game. But the Saturn, to me, it was still very much a Sega machine, the way that we knew it. The first party stuff was amazing, and it tried new things. The third party support was still there, especially again. For me, it quickly became a machine that I went down that import rabbit hole big time. And when you look at the library as a whole in that regard, it was a very, very special library of games. So I always loved it. I really stayed with the FGC stuff. Sort of, I stayed in that sort of realm longer than you did in the 2D realm specifically. So
But that was
this
always
console
you.
really
You
appealed to
always
me.
loved
Yeah.
that. Yeah, like that was your passion for sure.
So I really, to me, it is my favorite console of all time because
I never knew this.
No, it is because for me, it was just like it was this thing where I love the underdog.
I was gonna save this for the end. What was
No,
the
no.
favorite Sega console?
well,
but continue. Wow.
For me, it's my favorite one because it's the biggest underdog of them all. And there's so much that's underappreciated about it. And again, they shot themselves in the foot.
Right.
But the things that they were able to release that are very special I think to me are some of the most unique games ever released. And again, that import sort of rabbit hole. That import rabbit hole for me the stuff that you found on the other side of the pond that was just amazing made this console so special. And then another thing is that
Mike's ready.
So when
I got you, Sav.
Oh no, I know we're going in. I know we're going in.
I gotta hear this. This is beautiful. I love to hear this from Saturn.
So I went away to school again, and I purchased my PlayStation while I was away at school. So I had that there. As soon as I got home, I was only away to school for 1 year, and then I decided to stay home after that and finish my school here. As soon as I got home, that Saturn got as much, if not more, burned than that PlayStation. And then what happened was I started working full time, going to school full time, and living at home. So I had a lot of expendable income. So I was every single week at Ask Kaibatsu, I was coming home with hundreds of dollars worth of games every single week. And again, I mean, when it came to
these games that are justifying this GOAT tag, sir, I gotta put pressure on you because come on now.
Let's Panzer Dragoon Saga, Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2, Guardian Heroes.
What about Dragon Force?
Dragon Force, the Shining series, Shining Force. What else do we have? Sega Rally Championship.
Sega Rally was so good.
We talked about Treasure before, Guardian Heroes, Ikaruga, Radiant Silver Gun.
Road Rash.
Road Rash.
Now this was the 3DO version, by the way.
Okay.
So that's.
You got. I'm listening now. Now my ears is perking. I love that one. That's the one with the Soundgarden soundtrack.
Soundgarden.
Yeah,
Facts.
All the Capcom fighting games, the Children of the Atom, Marvel Superheroes.
But right here.
Virtual Fighters 2?
Virtual On.
Virtual On,
Fighter.
yes.
Yes, Virtual Fighter 2. Virtual Fighter 2, one of the most amazing conversions of an arcade game I've ever seen. That system was not supposed to be able to do that, and it did it. There's just so much there that just because of the popularity of the PlayStation, which it absolutely earned, just absolutely undermined any love that the Saturn would have gotten, and additionally to what they did on the business side that shot themselves in the foot. But again, like things like Dark Savior, their version of Symphony of the Night, which was different to the PlayStation version. What the heck else? Like Magic Knight Ray Earth. Dark Savior, which was the sequel to sort of Landstalker.
The medic says World Series Baseball. So.
World Series
Baseball. Of course, how can I forget
World
World Series Baseball? World Series Baseball
that was
1
your
and
favorite.
2
I remember you
were more arcadey, right? But they were super fun to play. And then 98 gave you the polygons finally. And 98 managed to transplant the fun of the first two into a truly 3D game that to me was as good or better than anything that the PlayStation had. And the PlayStation had a lot, right?
Oh, for sure. Before I pass it to Mike, because I know Mike's going to educate.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, Sav, you touched on a lot of it too.
I got to hit Steven up again. Were we still betraying Sega at this point, Steve? Where was your head at? Because I was over there with the polygons and PlayStation. I was allured. I was mesmerized by 3D. But where were you at with this?
So I kind of did the inverse of Mike, where I started switching to computer games. So like I got into like Warcraft and like Baldur's Gate and all these kind of games.
Mike is gonna get. I love Mike. I feel like he's gonna get something next off of everything you mentioned. Yeah, like he has it ready. Continue.
It's kind of interesting to me because like as I kind of go down memory lane with you guys, I realized like Master System and Genesis for me are still like the golden age of gaming because. Every time you'd get a game, it was like finding a hidden gem because no one, other than the people that were around you, like no one told you what a good game was.
Yeah.
So like every time you felt like you were finding a game that only you knew about. And I think that in a way, like it kind of makes me, I kind of get a little bit sad that like nowadays there's so much noise telling you what is a good and bad game. That I think a lot of good games get passed over. I bet there's tons of games we've missed over the last 10, 15 years that, just because no one found them or like, I just think it's like a shame that it happens now. But yeah, for me, I kind of split off after Genesis, played a lot of PC games. I didn't do Sega again until Dreamcast. But even that was like not nearly as like, definitely the Master System and Genesis were like the console system of all consoles really. Like, I've really never even gotten back into console gaming in any big way since, to be honest.
So that was with your PC. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, PC from there on, kind of, yeah.
Got
so
you.
It's interesting.
Let me speak to my brother Ames. No, you know how we feel about those past generations. I see you, see you kind of quiet like me.
Yep.
So
I'm hiding right now.
Yeah, where was your head?
He's still looking for that Sega CD on
How
eBay.
did you internalize it as a Genesis fan? Like, because I feel me and you share this very similar path.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, what happened
you
to
kind
you?
of nailed it, man, because Genesis was everything for me and all my friends at the time. 32X Sega CD, you covered it, right? It started to kind of slip. It's like, well, not only can I not afford these things, but there doesn't look to be, it's not even speaking to me, you know what I mean? And then if you remember, and I can't remember the details, but Sega sent out a packet to people before the Saturn launch. Like I got something in the mail saying Sega Saturn is coming in May.
Wow.
And I wish I still had it.
Wow. That's dope.
And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? You know? And I had moved to 3DO because I liked Madden. Road Rash was a huge thing.
Huge.
And there were some other 3DO games, you know, we're not going to take time on, but I had moved to 3DO. And then I had a good
I'll
friend.
call you and Bill for that 3DO Introspective podcast.
Yeah, that'd be
we'll
fun,
do that
actually.
one for sure.
Yeah. And then the guys at EB Games at the time, or Walden Software, whatever the hell it was, started talking about PlayStation. Have you heard about what's going on in Japan, PlayStation, you know? And
Mike's face, he's disgusted.
I know. And I
Treachery.
He said you call you guys Sega, you filthy heathens.
I know.
Poor Mike is
and I
like,
couldn't
he's
afford the
disgusted with us
Saturn.
right now.
I couldn't afford it, right? So by the time I could afford it, PlayStation was out in the US and Saturn was out. And you saw where the market was going, right? You just saw it. And so I sold my 3DO because I was always selling stuff to buy other stuff,
the other
right?
one. That's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sold all my 3DO and games, got the PlayStation, and then eventually N64, you know, and everything.
So
and
you
I
was
just
like me,
never
you never
kind of went
picked-
back to
so you-
Saturn until we get the Dreamcast.
Okay.
Or
but
Sega, I mean.
you were like me. You didn't even pick it up either.
Not originally. No, I've
Okay.
owned one, and I since sold it when I sold off my entire collection years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I didn't pick it up at launch or anytime near. I bought it in like 90.
Oh, much later. Okay.
Yeah, years
Got it.
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, save us. Tell us the error of our ways. What were we missing?
Fools.
You better put that zillion timer on Mike. 'Cause
You're about to go in on us right now. Mike, stay loyal. Talk to us.
All right, so Cog, I don't know how you didn't pick up
Let's go.
a Saturn. I'm
that-
going right to your heartstrings right there.
See, that was their last shot for me. That I was holding. I was like, damn, they
It
got a
was
Shinobi
good.
game.
It was
and,
good.
And I saw the
still play
graphics. It looked good, but I couldn't justify the whole system for it. That was the only thing. But I heard good things.
The thing is, the Saturn. I mean, Sav really nailed it. If the Saturn had released when it was supposed to, the PlayStation was cheaper,
Right.
but there was a point in time when they were selling equal, and then they just when you lose KB Toy and Hobby, and they refuse to sell your product
I didn't
at
know
a
that.
time when
Wow.
So
So the
KB
retail, I gotta cut you. So the retail, the Shadow Drop snafu, educate me. They did a limited release, a shadow release to set retailers,
Yes.
and excluded other retailers.
Yes.
Yes.
And then those other retailers said, "Well, screw you, Sega. We not even."
Yeah.
Wow.
When it originally it launched in October, they were like, "We're not taking your stock."
we're not taking a stock.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Best Buy and Walmart did because they want to sell them. KB
Right.
Toy and Hobby said no.
Yeah.
The only places that got the Saturn at launch was Toys R Us, EB,
Yes.
Babbage's, and Software Etc. That was it. And
Yeah.
that was such a mistake. The other mistake was the hardware itself. And this is what drove Tom Kalinske out of Sega of America. He had actually gone to Silicon Graphics. Remember, the Nintendo went to Silicon Graphics. That's where the N64, not the GameCube rather. Kalinske went to Silicon Graphics. He wanted a 3D machine. He was telling Sega of Japan, guys, if you want to bring arcade ports of Model 1 stuff home, like Sega Rally, like Virtual Fighter, like these,
so beautiful
you
arcade.
need to, right. And for whatever reason, they Sega of Japan felt like this 2 CPU architecture would be what they needed because they really wanted to focus on 2D because people were still playing that stuff. And 3D really wasn't coming home yet.
It was in infancy.
And Sony nailed it. I mean, you put Daytona USA up against Ridge Racer, it's no contest,
bro.
It's no contest.
Blew my mind.
You know, while I love Virtual Fighter over most other fighters, people looked at Battle Arena
Shinden. I betrayed the hell out of Saturn. that, bro, when I saw that at launch,
and that packed in with the PlayStation. That was a pack hit.
Yes.
I mean, there wasn't enough there just wasn't enough.
I didn't know
at that
At
time.
that point.
And it was there were some unbelievable games that came out for the Saturn that came out of Sega. I mean, you know, obviously Virtua Fighter, Remix and 2. You had Clockwork Knight, which was really good. Clockwork Knight. At the time, before Sony got the exclusive on Tomb Raider really started out
as
on Windows and a Saturn and Saturn, and I was able to actually find one before the cost jumped up.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
One of the best versions of Virtual Racing is on the Saturn.
Yes.
You know, there are games that really are top notch. And Sav, I brought these over because you talked about the import market.
Let's go.
So I'd Fire Pro Wrestling.
Oh my God. Fire Pro Wrestling.
You got that.
Yes.
You got that.
Yep.
I remember Sav. He brought that up. I felt bad. I was like, damn, that game's
Somebody in it, whoever it was in the chat that called Radiant Silver Gun.
There you go.
Ooh, now
Ikaruga, Radiant
Treasure.
Silver Gun.
What is that?
God.
What is that?
It's a shooter, man.
That's a shooter from Treasure.
Oh, from Treasure? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's considered one of the all-time shmup greats.
Okay. What else?
Strikers 1945.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, is there an elevator action returns there, sir?
There is not. There is not. I'm
Wait
sorry.
a minute. I didn't even know they made a
I
follow-up.
didn't even know they made that.
Japan
Yes, they did.
only. When I talk about an import rabbit hole, Sega Saturn.
Well, you
That's
know about
the
the
type of stuff I
classic
mean.
old school from the
Elevator
arcade, the little guy that used to go down the road.
Yeah, man.
I love that game.
It was so good. Yo, the sequel did so much to improve on
He
those
kinda looked like
mechanics.
Luke Laura,
It
the
was
character.
so good.
And the spiritual successor to Afterburner, Sky Target.
Sky Target.
Oh wow.
And then just for you,
Never heard
brother,
any of these.
Sega Rally and Virtual On.
Oh my
But I want you to see. So this is where Sega did it again.
What they do?
You see that up in the upper right corner? It says Netlink Playable.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
Somebody asked, I think it was Mr. Nix in the chat said, what was the cartridge slot for on the Saturn? So there was a couple of things you could do. Get a memory card.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing the Capcom fighters like Sav was talking about, you can get a 4 meg cart that made those games better.
Yep.
But one of the things that transformed me in gaming,
Oh
coming
my
off
God.
of PC, like I would take my computer over to a friend's house to do LAN parties and play Doom and Quake and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Sega brought this out.
Yeah.
What's the Netlink? I don't know about this.
Yeah.
The Netlink is a 56K modem.
It's the prior to the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, so they were already innovating in the space with Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I forgot to bring it over, but I have Duke Nukem on
Yes.
Saturn, which was a pixel perfect port of that game. And I would play that. I would play Sega Rally, and I would play Virtual On with my friends. Now it was peer to peer, so you called up your buddy. He had to have a Netlink too, and you connected up.
Okay.
But that was my first real foray in online gaming.
So Sega
Very
pioneered.
cool.
Sega pioneered this live, man. Wow. I never
And
knew
don't
that.
forget that Sega was the one who brought an analog stick
It's true.
to console
Wait,
before
really?
anybody else.
Hold
Nights
on,
into
hold on.
Dreams.
That's the Knights,
Nice.
the Knights
This is the
controller.
Knights,
Yeah.
and this works for a bunch of other games. Like Sega Rally works really well with
They
this.
were before
This is-
Nintendo with the analog?
Yep. This
Mhm.
is the.
Mm.
Yep, and triggers.
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 Wow,
Yes.
that's very
Yep.
cool.
Very cool. You're right.
This was, and I don't know what this is for, Sav. I don't know if you could tell me what, but for some, the cable came out. I don't know if this was for something else. If they were going to do something with it.
Mm.
This
Nah,
was
I
also
don't
one of the
remember.
first ones that really also on the, and you could see it on the back.
Yeah.
Kind of had a had a video port on it that did RGB out.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
While you could get RGB out of the Genesis, you had to have some special cables for it. The Saturn did it out of the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So-
You guys educated me, man. I
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this. I learned it. Look.
And one more thing on my Saturn. You'll appreciate this. So mine is modded.
Mhm.
So,
Nice,
so
yeah.
see that
Nice.
see
Yep,
that
I
on
see
the
switch.
so
That's it.
US,
Yeah. Nice.
Japan.
Yeah, very nice.
Ready to
Very
go.
nice.
Yeah, I heard.
And this is my original launch Saturn. This is
Oh
wow.
This is my launch
Pristine.
Saturn.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow, that's
And
very
I
cool.
still play it to this day. I've got an HDMI cable for it and an M Classic,
Salute the
and
mic.
it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I made the mistake again. You know, you young and poor. You're like,
Yep.
I don't need this,
Yep.
and
Trade
I
them
got rid of everything. And little by little, I'm gonna start getting my stuff back because this stuff is so amazing. I'm gonna pay
Yep.
through the nose for it. But
You
that's
are,
what I get.
unfortunately,
That's
you
what I
are.
get.
You're not. I
I've
just
got
looked
a
up
copy
Dragon
of-
Force. Like if you want it complete for Saturn,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I remembered it used to go for like $150, which was a lot. It goes for about $500 now.
Jeez.
My
Wow.
most expensive
Wow.
Saturn game. Hang on.
You got-
Is
But-
it?
Cog, if you're like me, right? Like the problem was they were doing all these cool things in the space, but because of everything Solve touched on, the fumbles, right?
Yeah.
The interest wasn't there. I didn't care.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Again, the fumbles and the mistakes and stuff.
Yeah.
What you got, Mike? Real quick before we transition on to the last one.
Mega Man 8.
Oh,
This right now is $850.
Oh
Wow.
God, I had that game.
wow.
My God.
I don't want to play that game with you, Soft.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Oh,
I'm crying,
brother.
Cam.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of tears, Danes. A lot of
The
tears.
only oh, by the way, don't forget too, before Sony bought Psygnosis, there was a version of
Wipeout.
Wipeout.
What?
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Because Psygnosis at the time was a third party developer. They weren't owned by Sony, and Sony did not own that IP until a few years later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Wow.
Mike's sitting on like a retirement fund.
Bro.
over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
my
man.
wife
Mike needs to
my
open a
wife
museum.
has said that to me. My wife has said this to me. So the
Exactly.
only problem that and again, Sav, you and I probably have this issue together, is these are nice cases, but when they break,
you're done.
they are damn hard to replace.
They
I
really
have
are.
not found
They really
a
are.
great replacement.
Yeah,
Case
you'll
company.
you'll have people online that sort of specialize in making those cases again, but it's not
Yeah,
quite
it's not
the
the
same.
Not quite the same.
Yeah.
Well, salute to y'all. I
No.
mean, like I said, it was a different
Yeah.
time. I'm glad I was educated on what I missed.
Oh, real quick, somebody in the chat mentioned, Grandia.
Grandia.
Grandia, the original Grandia was import only. It never came to the States.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had a full English translation in game. I don't recall. I remember having it. I just don't recall if it had a full English translation or if it was one of those that you sat with a fac and
I think
kinda
you
went.
did.
Yeah.
Because the US version didn't come till the Dreamcast.
Yeah. But
Ah.
Grandia was
Mm.
another sort of graphical showpiece for the Saturn that in comparison, the PlayStation version was lacking.
Was
So
lacking.
the Grandia was a beautiful game.
No doubt.
But
And-
Mr.
and as
M
Sav-
in the chat said
yeah.
Mike is more Sega than Sega.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's true Sega. No one can take his card.
Sav will also back me on this. Another stupid thing that Sega did was when they brought Bernie Stolar in. He got
Yes.
into a pissing match with Victor Ireland from Working Designs, who was
Yes.
bringing all of these Magic Knight Ray Earth. He was bringing
Yep,
all these
the Albert
Game Arts
Odyssey games, and yes.
over to the Saturn, and he got into some stupid argument with him over. I mean, I used to be on IRC chats where Victor Ireland would come in and he would just be like, "I hate Sega. Once we're done
Yep.
with the Saturn, I'm done." And he brought all of his stuff. He moved over to PlayStation,
Yep.
and Dreamcast got almost nothing.
Nothing.
Yikes.
From Working Designs post that.
This is why you don't burn bridges.
That's why you don't burn bridges on the way out.
So
Look,
Sorry, Cog.
No.
One more
No,
important
please,
thing in
before
the
you
chat.
transition.
Halo Craig said is Resident Evil on the Saturn too.
mhm.
Yes.
People forget that.
I
Yeah.
never knew this. All these gems, all these things I didn't know
Yeah.
about. Thank you, Mike and Solve. And then we come to a certain date now.
I got about 10 minutes left, by the way.
I got you. You know what I'm saying? We gonna get there. And it's, young Cog is mesmerized by a very, very aggressive executive and
Yeah,
a date.
man.
$9,999.
May it live in infamy.
But man, Sega was back to me.
Yep.
Sega was back to me, and it was that system that Mike's holding, and that's what I'm like. Okay, this is my Sega, and they were so back on so many levels to me. You know what I'm saying? The system design, you know, the very revolutionary products, the VMU, the controller.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they took, I felt what they learned from the Saturn and some of the mistakes. And then the power. Oh, we gonna get to that. I know we gonna get
We getting there, Mike.
We gonna get there, Mike.
Calm down.
So I'm gonna start with Ains, because I want to know if Ains, like, when that Dreamcast announcement happened, and me and you both went away. What was your mindset then when you saw you?
Oh, I was back. I was back. Full. They had me because it was done properly.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, Peter Moore, right, came in and he knew what he was doing, and everything you just said, the hardware, the design, the advertising, the timing was good with it too.
Even the name.
Say it again.
Even the name grew on you.
Dreamcast, right?
Yeah.
And it came out and basically said, you know, PlayStation had got its install base by this point. PS2 was years away, and Dreamcast came in and said 128-bit. They said network, you know, 56K you can play online. It had this, you know, the if I remember correctly, it had the 1 gigabyte CD drive. And
Gigadisc.
Woo!
And it just $9,999. And little known fact, I turned 21 6 days prior.
Nice.
On September 3rd. So it was, to Solve's point, you're talking about buying your own console. Dreamcast was the first console I bought for myself.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I lined up at KB Toys. I literally upstairs still have my original Dreamcast with the receipt from KB.
Nice.
Wow.
I have the keyboard. I have everything that goes with the Dreamcast still.
Wow.
And I was fully back, Hog. I was that guy like on the street corner being like, buy a Dreamcast. Buy a Dreamcast. And of course, you know, if we'll get to the games, I'm sure, but like, you know, launch games like Soul Calibur was game changing at the time. Game changing. And yeah, man, I was all the way back in, Cog, all the way back.
Well, Steve, I know you were PC, but were you tempted?
Well, yeah, we had a Dreamcast. Greg and I, we had one. I definitely, like, that got me back in. Soul Calibur for me.
Everybody says Soul Calibur.
I mean, that kind of like changed fighting games for me. I don't think like I've really even looked at fighting games like the same way since. And yeah, I think it was a brilliant game, and I think Dreamcast was a great. I mean, it had some great, fantastic titles for sure.
Yeah.
It never got me in as much, you know, as definitely the Master System and Genesis are still like the ones I really sunk my teeth into. But Dreamcast definitely got me back into console gaming. For sure.
Real quick on Soul Calibur before I pass it, you mentioned it, and everyone seems to mention it, but Solve, you remember this? Like, I was blown away at the time. What we called the Mikatas. The visual demonstration.
The visual demonstration.
And I remember seeing the killer
style.
character with the pole and the anime. And I'm just like, oh my God, this looks amazing.
How long did it take us to download those katas?
Oh yeah. That's right. How did we get we got the promotional things from somewhere.
Yeah, and we had the ability to specifically download the videos of the katas, right?
Yes.
So we were just fawning over this stuff months before the console came out. And I think, so we had to find one of us that had internet in the house yet, because not all of us had it yet. And so I think it was Cog that had it. I had it.
I had the files.
We had to go to his house, and
we would just sit at the computer watching
them download. And then you see, like, you'd watch like 8 seconds, and then you have to wait for it to keep buffering down. And we just sat there. We sat there for hours just watching this, like losing our mind over this damn game.
It's insane. It was. I had to because now, Mike, I know time is limited for you, so I got to be respectful. I'll probably let you go next because I know you may be on time constraint. And but we know how much this means to you. And I got, before you start, I gotta give you your props, because one time I was on Twitter, I was a little loose. I was a prisoner of the moment with other system launches. Let's just say, brother Mike, because I was feeling the Switch with it. I was like, yo, this is one of the best, game launch. And brother Mike was like, excuse me, cuz.
Yeah.
let me remind you of what the launch lineup of was the Dreamcast. And I'm like, and he's going down the list, and I'm like, yo, he right. You know what I'm saying? So, Mike, I'm going to set it up for you, man. Talk to me.
The greatest. First off, it is the best launch lineup of any console in history and has yet to be touched. I mean, we are talking about Ready to Rumble. We're talking about racing games, Monaco and First to Flag. We're talking about
What the 2K games there too?
2K.
Oh
right.
my God!
We're talking.
Visual concepts in their bag. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
I thought it was real life the way it looked. It was just crazy too.
Well, I've told that story about E3, right?
Yep.
So the reason that the Dreamcast is probably the most special console to me is it also launched my short game, and I say short because it only lasted a decade, game journalism career.
Beast.
Well, because there's people that have been doing it a lot longer.
No, we not. We're going to give you your roses now, sir. You were out there. You were on the floor. Like, at the time, what you were doing, me and Sav would buy VHS tapes to watch E3 a month later while you were out there doing that thing.
Lying.
We got to give you your roses, sir.
Or you'd have to look and see what the magazine said.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was me. Yeah.
But I got that launched. I started writing for a little site called Dreamcast HQ, and that's where I got my start. And it's kind of funny because I'm going to show you guys something. Actually, show you guys two things. So you wanted to know what the disc inside the system was. So this is a development disc for the Dreamcast. It's a Giga disc.
Awesome.
Wow.
And you had to have a special boot disc to boot it up, which I do have somewhere. But quick shout out to a man that is, when I say is still in the industry, still and bigger than ever. I got to give a shout out to my man Pete Hines from Bethesda Softworks.
Wow, talk to me.
So I met Pete, and I've known Pete Hines for a good now. It's like 18 years. When I met him during the Dreamcast times, he gave me a copy of a game that hadn't been finished yet, never came out. It says self boot on because it actually was one that I could put in the system and just boot up. Do play it from time to time. It's it works. It's not the greatest thing, and there's a reason it didn't come out. You see that the 2001, by that time, things were really not looking great for Sega. Yeah. They had this 1 year run, and then the PS2 was coming, and it had a DVD drive, and by that time, Sega was bleeding money.
Yeah.
Yes.
They also lost EA. Because they wanted Madden to be the de facto sports title for the Saturn or for the Dreamcast, and Sega said, "That's great, we love you, but we got this development studio called Visual Concepts, and we've got a game of our own,
legendary."
Right, and here's the story that I've told Cog before.
I know about this one. This is the good stuff.
And I don't know if I told you, Ames, or not, but I was so this is E3 '99. System was coming out that year. And I'm walking through the Sega booth. And I'm on my way to our meeting with them. That's what you did. You go
to the meeting rooms. That's E3, man.
No.
Media.
We didn't play games when we went to E3, did we? We met everybody all day long.
Yeah.
So I'm walking through the booth, and I look up, and I look over, and there's a video playing of the upcoming launch titles, and one of them was NFL 2K.
Oh God!
And the quarterback throws the ball. Receiver's running down the field, and it's like, look cool. The receiver turns his head to look for the ball, and I stopped and I froze, and I watched that video for another 20 minutes until I realized, crap, I'm missing my meeting at Sega. And
mind blowing.
It was on another level, like something that even at the time, the PlayStation couldn't do that. And to be quite honest, shout out to 989 Sports because they made some good stuff.
Yeah,
but their NFL game was straight trash.
Game day.
Garbage. Yeah.
Game day was
Change the
could have been.
cat
It
fat.
should have been called Game Broken. Because there was stuff that was horrible.
Yes.
And this was on this
Another
was God tier
level.
stuff.
God tier.
Yeah.
God tier stuff. And NBA 2K.
Mm.
It was like watching something that I had never seen before.
Preach.
And it hit me that this was something that Sega was this was Sega at Sega's best.
Yes.
And even though this was not the Genesis, and even though this was the last console that they'd ever make, and they would lose out to Sony, this was Sega at their best, and it was headed by a man who I've also had the privilege of knowing for many years.
Say his name. Say it with your chest. Right? Say it with your chest. That's my guy. Before
Until I
this
left-
Phil Dominus talk, there was one.
There was
Before.
Peter
My
Dominus.
guy. Let's go.
Peter Moore,
You will never walk alone. Liverpool, stand up. Let's go.
who
Let's go.
to this day I will never forget that night, the first night of E3. Sega had a party, because they used to do that back in the day, and it was in this warehouse kind of hangar kind of thing. And there's Peter Moore hanging from a metal rafter,
What? He was wild.
hanging,
He was a wild
talking
boy.
to the people
love
in the thing.
Tattoos,
And
everything. He's a wild boy.
he had NBA players playing NBA Live up on this big screen, and he's hanging from this girder. We're gonna kick Sony's ass, and the place erupts.
He's a showman. I loved
He's
it.
a showman. So couple quick things. You guys all know his Halo 2 tattoo is real, right?
Yeah.
You guys all know that.
That's
All right.
real. Yeah.
That is.
Come on now, you know
The
I know
GTA 4 one is not.
It's not real. Yeah, that's what
it's
I'm
not
talking
real. You could tell that was painted on, but the Halo one's real. The thing about Peter Moore was he knew what needed to be done to fix things. He just unfortunately was about 5 years too late
that. Yeah.
to be part of the things. That man, and I will always have a special place in my heart as a gamer and as a game journalist from him. There wasn't a year, even as I transitioned on to Next Level Gaming, created Next Level Gaming to do the multi-plat stuff, and got to start to talk to Microsoft and Sony and stuff. When he went to Microsoft, there wasn't a year that I went through their booth to go to my meeting with them. He'd be walking through. He would stop. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Very
How's the
cool.
family? I had just had a kid. Like and I've had dinner with the guy. I've sat down and broke bread with this man. If he had been there after Tom Kalinske,
That would have been a perfect transition.
it
Yeah.
could have been a little
Could have been different. It would have been
It
different.
could have been different. Or if he had been there, if Tom Kalinske brought him in to help, he might have been the voice that could have
Yes.
talked to Sega Japan
Talking Japan, yeah.
and got some things different.
He got things done.
And he's it's always funny to hear him talk about how Sony killed his baby.
Yeah, he got it.
Because the
Personally.
Dreamcast really was his baby. When Bernie Stolar left, he took over, and he really, I don't know that Sega would have at least had the last push of success that they had without him.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, dude. Pioneering the space, brother. Tremendous story. I definitely want to get into the games and pass it to Saul real quick. For you, obviously, I get back into the fold. I act like I never left. And man, what was that Dreamcast for you? Man, I think you muted Saul. Yeah, you muted.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, you got it.
Yeah, exactly. Cog, the fair weather friend, bandwagon fan. But for me, I'm gonna be honest. I loved the Dreamcast, but I ultimately became part of the problem.
Oh.
Because very early on,
yeah.
again, a broke. At that point, I got married very young. So I had a lot of responsibilities, and I was in school full time, working full time. But again, I just moved out. I had my own apartment, so I didn't have as much expendable income. And once it was found out that things were discovered about how easy it was to play unofficial software on the Dreamcast.
Allegedly.
I became part of that problem. So, but all that aside,
Yes.
Bunch of traders in here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Young and broke. But I have to say, it was to Old School's point. It was them at their best.
Yeah.
In every way, shape imaginable. They were showing their prowess in terms of hardware and bringing new ideas to the console market that we hadn't seen before. Mm-hmm. They focused on power and making sure they could make the most powerful machine that they could make for the time.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was a weird sort of middle ground stopgap. They needed to bring something out.
Yeah.
At the time that they did, and obviously, it was going to fall short of what the PlayStation could do just because of the time frame. Right. But when you talk about bringing the true arcade experience home, this was finally it.
This was finally it. Yeah,
this is finally it. Where you're like, oh my god, this is what it is, and in a lot of instances, it's better, right? When you looked at, when we saw that Soul Calibur conversion, and you looked at the arcade original, and you looked at what you got at home, it was mind blowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was mind blowing to see how much better that game looked at home. And then when you added all of like the cutscene stuff and the story stuff and sort of the arcade mode, complete package, it was absolutely gobsmacking. Like it was one of those things that I can't believe they're doing this, especially coming off of the Saturn. I figured they were back for good. I said, this is it. I don't know.
It felt like this was the next run.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt like this was the next one. They said it felt like they figured everything out that they got wrong.
It feels like, to you and Mike's point, right? The Dreamcast did what Saturn should have done originally, is move that technology forward instead of sticking to the past. Yeah.
Exactly. But so many games that we talked about that launch lineup, and when you think about like just fighting games, we oftentimes is overlooked because of Soul Calibur, that Power Stone.
Power Stone.
Oh my goodness. And I've got both of them.
Yeah.
People still call for that game to come back.
Yes.
Yep.
I would love to see that come back.
Mm-hmm.
And you had MK Gold, right? Which was again amazing.
Yep.
You got to mention the GOAT, right? Marvel Capcom 2.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the best.
You no longer needed the RAM cart to get like arcade perfect conversions of these games.
Right.
Yes.
Sonic Adventure. For me, I was a big Blue Stinger fan. Like I love Blue Stinger.
Yeah. Stinger was great.
There was so many racing games. Like racing games are crazy, but for me, the ones that stood out, obviously Hydro Thunder, the arcade conversion. One that gets overlooked, Trick Style.
Trick Style.
Awesome game. Like such a good game.
Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi.
I love Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Blitz,
launch
NFL
per
Blitz
se?
was
Of course. Yo, Blitz was a launch game? Yes, it was.
Crazy Taxi.
Oh my
I
God.
thought was close to launch, right?
Yes, it was close. It wasn't on launch, but Blitz was launched, and I had Blitz. And again, like it was just, if you played any of those games in your arcade, you're like, I have it at home now. I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
No, right.
That was the thing.
There was just the funny thing is they had the third party support, right? But the first party stuff stood out so much, like Virtua Tennis, like
Virtua
Tennis.
Yes.
That was
someone in chat was saying they'll
obviously
still beat anyone in Virtual Tennis. I gotta find it. I'm gonna find it.
What the smoke.
The animations of that game, like little weird stuff like Samba the Amigo, like obviously
Samba de Amigo. Yep.
Yeah,
It launched with an
Shenmue,
Air Force. It launched with an Air Force Delta game.
Wow.
Yes,
that?
yes, I remember.
So, and I got to do this for Boomstick.
What's up? Boom, what we
Brought
doing?
this up on Twitter. The Pen Tri-Isolon.
Oh my God.
Such an underrated game. 4-player, by the way. 4-player.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't know if you have this, Mike. Because King got the import, right? So Pen, he had Pen, and he had Godzilla.
Did not get Godzilla. I
Godzilla.
knew that was a Japanese only launch title, and I did not get it.
It was horrible, but we got to see it and play it. It was so bad. In terms of racing stuff too, the precursor to Project Gotham Racing, one of my favorite races of all time, Metropolis Street Racing.
Yeah, man. Was it Bizarre?
Yes. And then the first time I got to play again, going back to the fighting games, you didn't need a RAM card anymore. The fighting games are perfect. When I put on Garou, Mark of the Wolves, to this day, it is their Street Fighter 3.
Yeah, it's fine.
In terms of animation and how good that game, to this day, those games are untouchable in terms of beautiful 2D sprite work. And the amount of frames of animation in those games it's crazy to see. I love the console. I love this console.
It's fire. I'll jump in real quick. You guys nailed all the major ones that I was gonna take.
One thing quickly.
What's up?
But they broke my heart when it came to baseball.
They did.
Yeah, baseball wasn't that good on
So
them, right?
I remember that this is a quick. I'm sorry before I give it
No, go ahead, because you're gonna say what what my problem is. Too,
when we first saw the original World Series baseball that was coming to the Dreamcast,
Pedro on the cover.
Pedro on the cover, they showed you the seams of the baseball and the stitching on the glove, and they focused on all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm about to get the greatest baseball simulation ever.
The bait and switch?
What it was the biggest bait and switch I've ever seen in my life. So there was a baseball game. I don't even think it was World Series baseball. It might have been maybe the arcade version that was very arcadey in how it played. That turned out to be the game that they put the World Series baseball moniker on. It was so bad. Okay, so one, it was auto fielding.
Oh no. You couldn't field yourself?
You could not field.
Oh,
you could throw to the bases. You could. You remember? You don't remember Cog?
I vaguely.
So
that part's coming back.
Okay, so Cog and I went out the day this game released to go purchase it. Right. We go to EB Games on 34th Street, and there's only one copy left. Cog walked in the store first. It goes to Cog. Right. So the guy behind the counter is like, I have a copy for myself. I took, I reserved the copy. And he said, but you know what? If you go buy me breakfast, I'll sell you my
story. Sounds familiar now. Yes.
So I go and get him a McDonald's breakfast. I'm like, here you go, sir. Here you go. He sells me the game. I'm so excited because I think I got my game.
Yeah, he knew he was doing.
So we get it home. And a few hours after playing, I called Cog and I'm like, Cog, this is the most beautiful piece of crap. Because it looked gorgeous. But again, like I said, you can't field on your own. You could throw only. When it came to hitting, you didn't press the button to swing. You pressed the trigger to load up the swing. And
to charge up. Yeah.
And then you released it to swing. I said, well,
there's no check swing. You all the way commit. All the way. Yeah. No.
And visual.
Well, no, the check swing, you let go and you had to hit the trigger again
to check swing.
Yeah.
They broke my heart when it came to baseball. They tried to fix it with the later iterations, but they weren't good baseball games. No. They weren't. So that's just they broke. Yeah, they killed me.
Well, for me, luckily, you were more passionate on the baseball side than me at that time. So for me, the visual concept games, like Mike said, like there was nothing like that. That you had the graphical fidelity, you had the thing looked like a television production. And what people forget, the importance of the VMU during that time. Because your buddy, that was the thing. You played Madden, you played these games. There we go, Mike. That's what I'm talking about. Like, to be able to see your plays on your own controller in the competitive space
oh my God.
was a big deal because we all had the friend that is looking right at the play.
Screen cheater.
Screen cheating and know what you're going to do.
You didn't have to put King on blast.
It was King. But at the end of the day, we all had that guy. And I'm just like, it just made it, it just added a level of strategy. And I'm a little mad at the Sting because I almost wanted them to go further and iterate because I thought the potential of that little device that you put in the controller was so revolutionary and things you could do. And shout out to the chat, the Tamagotchi. Yeah, like there was so many cool things that you could do with it. I just wish more games.
Loading up the KO.
Yes.
Loading up the KO in Sonic Adventure and then I used to take that thing to work. I used to throw my little KO. I used to have to feed it. Then bring it back into the
thanks.
Yeah,
it was revolutionary. And the last one I'll say from a tech point, like Mike already said, was it Windows CE as a base OS, and then the modem, right? Did they have the attachment?
56K.
So-
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it
Which
came
is a
off.
big deal at the time, Ains, right? 56.
It was.
And actually-
it was. Yeah.
What this is, because this was pre Xbox.
Right.
This was a broadband
That's
adapter.
a broadband adapter. That you
Yep.
could
There was
get.
an
Yeah,
adapter for broadband?
Yep.
Wow.
Because
I never knew
right
that.
before the Dreamcast kind of went out, their last ditch effort to kind of get everybody together and show this thing off was SegaNet.
Yeah.
And that was their
Yep.
online service. It was
Yep.
like $20 a month or something like that.
It was.
But you could play, you now dialed into a servers instead of peer to peer, and it made things better. And it worked. SegaNet worked.
Mm-hmm.
There were games that you wouldn't think you wouldn't
Oh,
play in a modem.
I play Quake Arena all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so funny story, Ains. People got tired of playing me in Quake Arena because I also had
Oh,
the
you
mouse
wanna
and
go?
keyboard.
Oh no. Oh, brother.
Like one of
bought
those
that,
guys.
and it's still in the drawer. I have the mouse and keyboard,
So do I. So do I.
and people got real tired of it very quickly.
Look, man.
I do have to wrap up.
I know. I got to
'cause,
wrap too. I got to wrap
yeah.
too. Yeah. Look.
And don't forget, by the way, the other things that came, the microphone
Wow.
C-Man.
Yes. Yes.
for C-Man
Mm-hmm.
and the light gun, which
Yes.
was
Yo, I
fantastic.
was getting ready to say it, Mike. Confidential mission
Oh
from the arcade.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Ains, get your
Virtual
balls
Cop
off before we
2.
go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you guys nailed everything. I don't have to do too much. I was gonna say the light gun, and remember again, Sega had that arcade presence for
Yes.
light gun games, and being able to play those, that's gone nowadays, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we
I know.
don't really see that. The other thing that Dreamcast doesn't get enough credit for are shmups. I'm a huge shmup guy. And so one of the big ones I've always loved, this is a legendary game if you're a shmup fan, is Mars Matrix. I don't know if you
Yes.
know, it's not the like.
Mm.
I just looked on eBay. This thing's like $250 now.
Mm.
Mhm.
But they had some amazing shmups. So, and then the only other story I was going to tell super, super fast,
Let's
I know
go.
you guys got to wrap, is NFL 2K1. We all share that, right? So, to Mike's point, as I got on the broadband, SegaNet and everything, and no joke, this is one of those early online stories where I used to play NFL K21 every night, Niners representing college.
Woo!
And I played against this one guy, and he was just super friendly, right? And we started chatting at the time. We literally, just from 2K1, he lived in Florida, I was up in Delaware. We stayed friends for like 15
dope.
years.
That's dope.
Wow, that's awesome.
It carried over to Xbox Live eventually,
Fire,
right? And
fire.
I lost track of him maybe like 5 years ago now, but we stayed friends forever from just playing NFL 2K1. Like I was getting married, he had a kid, like our lives just kind of grew together. So Dreamcast was, again, Sega just paved the way for these experiences that, guys like us, of course, appreciate it, but I think the industry as a whole needs to put some respect on Sega's name and what they
facts.
did
Yes.
for the industry, because they really did do so many innovative things that are taken for granted nowadays.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, it's been a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. You guys,
Been great.
yeah, take
This
me down
is-
memory lane. We could, theoretically, we can continue to go on.
All right. So Ains is gonna host part 3 on his channel. Since I did one and you did one. It's
yeah,
just-
A's got to do that. So yeah,
We going back to Sega Master System.
Let's go. Yeah, we could really do an entire show on each one
on
of
each
these.
one.
Yeah, we really
so we
could.
try to
Sure,
pack
yeah.
as much as we could, again, salute to you
Nah,
guys.
this was
This is a lot of fun. But before we go, each one of you, I think we've alluded to it earlier. Which generation, which Sega console, you got to pick one of your children, Mike. Which one are you picking as your golden era for you, your favorite Sega console?
it's unfair.
I can't do it.
Got to pick from your kids, man.
Super tough.
Let's go.
Yeah. Between Master System and Genesis is damn near impossible. So I will say, if I had to pick one, you gun to my head, I'd probably say Genesis.
Okay.
Because Genesis had the longer life. It brought more to the industry, more great experiences, all this. But Master System's always special
to
because
you.
it's what really got me
into it. Yeah, we
completely invested into
But I
gaming
went-
for life. But Genesis as a platform is, I know everyone's Dreamcast. So many Sega guys think Dreamcast is the best,
Yeah.
but I think for me, Genesis will always be Sega's best
Okay.
platform.
So we got one Genesis vote. I need Mike, but I'm very curious with Mike. Like, He's been through almost every generation. He's got the history. We got the Saturn love. We got
And there's always been some specialness to each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's about to accidentally disconnect before he has.
Yeah. I'm making him choose between his children. Come on, Mike.
I'm gonna. It's by a slim margin, but I'm gonna say Sega CD.
Wow.
Whoa.
There are so many things that the Sega CD introduced for me. And again, I'm a musician, so that music aspect was something at the time. As much as I love my Dreamcast, the Dreamcast did a lot for me professionally. Mm-hmm. The Sega CD really was probably my favorite system.
Okay,
we're counting that for Genesis.
We're gonna count that for Genesis. But I'm gonna let him. Yeah, I'm with you. We can't do it without Genesis.
I do have to. My wife is now texting me, so I do
All right,
have
brother.
to jump.
Do your thing.
All right, Mike,
thank you so much.
This has been absolutely awesome. Sav, you and I grew closer today. That's all there is.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Brothers in arms here.
Absolutely. Cog, thank you for having me on.
Always,
Steve, it's great to meet you. I'll find you and let you know how Unto the End is.
And play that.
And Ainsley, my Sega brother in arms too.
Yeah, man.
Always a pleasure. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody in the chat and Iron Lords.
Tell the people where they can find you before you go. Tell the people where you can find you.
Sure. So the original Next Level Gaming, just look up Next Level Gaming on YouTube. It's we do a Thursday night show once a week, and then I put out various content stuff like that. A lot of retro stuff, and we have a lot of fun, talk some games, and I got an excellent crew with me.
So Fastback, HTK, the crew.
Fastback at HTK.
Brother, enjoy your day. Thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you, man. Now I spent an hour and a half putting all these games back.
Thank you for the museum
at least
tour.
Do me a favor before you guys wrap up. Somebody say something nice about the Xbox series collection. For the
it was beautiful. I was going to transition and say that most Sega kids, the spiritual successor for them was Xbox transition.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Shout out to Full Auto. Shout out to Full Auto.
And we didn't even mention Shenmue. How dare us?
Shenmue, I know. Shenmue Condemned.
Oh,
yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Criminal Origins.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, good night, guys.
You have a good one.
All right, man.
Steven, you're up. I think I know the answer.
No, I'm going Master System. Although I think Genesis is actually definitely a better system in terms of how it's sold and the variety of games. But I think for me, Master System, those games I like want to go play again and again and again. And I think it's hard to beat nostalgia, but it's like if I had to pick Star Wars, like I like New Hope better than Empire.
Okay.
Even though I know Empire's a better movie, but I that's kind of
yeah.
Okay. Salute. I respect it. Listen, I know how I feel about Master System, so I get it. And both you and Ains made good points in reference to the introduction, and being mesmerized by that console. That's what really got me into it. I'll get to my own later, but I'll do last. But Sav, you said a very controversial statement earlier. Now that all of this is finished, are we standing on that square? For
100%. Like, listen, for me, in my mind, best is Dreamcast. Best. But for me, the Saturn, and it's always going to be the Saturn, because that was when I started engaging with games differently than I ever had before. And a lot of it is because I had to seek out. Saturn was big in Japan, right?
Yeah.
I had to seek out where the machine was popular to really get a full scope of the stuff that it was bringing to market. And the funny thing is that I did the same exact thing with PlayStation at the same exact time. And Nintendo as well. So it opened up my mind to all of these import games and stuff that we were never going to get here. And it kind of gave me a broader view of what, gaming could be. So for me, that Saturn did that for me. And I refused to look the other way. I loved my PlayStation.
You're loyal, brother. You stood on your square. I give you that.
But that Saturn, man. I got so much joy out of something being good on a PlayStation, on the Saturn per se, as opposed to the PlayStation. Like when something was good on the Saturn, I was like, yes.
See, the way you treat Saturn is the way I treat Master System versus NES at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's interesting your perspective
100%.
on it. No, listen, I respect it. I mean, you rocked with it. I can't really comment because I didn't have it, so I can't really, you know what I'm saying? I can't, say disparage. Look, this was tough. Instinctually, I wanted to say Dreamcast instinctually because I felt that was the pinnacle, them at their most potential, the future looked bright. We didn't know the wheels were going to fall out so quickly. You know what I'm saying? So that was, but I got to go with Ains because, and I wanted to lead with Steven too because Mass System got me in the game.
I told you those two, man.
Yeah, it's
tough.
so
hard. Yeah.
It's so hard because I'm looking at that system. It's such a beautiful. Look at that. It's sexy. It's just like it just feels like you said, like a premium product. And I have so many premium experiences with it, but I just can't deny the longevity of Genesis. I can't deny them with the right marketing at the right time, the power, the diversity of lineup, and it just lasted so long, so many memories. And yeah, man, Genesis was something special for me. So that's where it's gonna end for me. But yeah, this is a great retrospective, guys. I appreciate you guys spending some time, and let's do some outros and get you guys out here to your respective families. I can't hold you hostage for so long. Let's get the developer himself, Stephen Danton, the legend, 2 Ton Studios. Where can people find you, and give us the exclusive new game that you're working on.
I'm getting ready to talk about.
No NDA. No, I was just joking. We ain't gonna do that. I'm messing with you.
Twitter is probably the best place to hit me up. Just 2 Ton Studios, numerical 2 TON Studios, and new game. Who knows? We're having fun and coming up with ideas, but nothing to say yet.
Listen, you've earned the rest, brother. If any in the chat have not played Unto the End, still in Game Pass, sir, right? For the Xbox?
Yeah, until the end of the year, yeah.
Yeah, so get it. If you haven't played it, it's in Game Pass. Go check it out. You see the history. You see a lot of his inspirations that we talked about. Play this game, man. Really cool game. And thank you, brother, for taking the time. I was so happy.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I had a blast.
I had someone to talk zillion with besides Ace. I was like, oh, it's on. Master System was loved today.
Yeah.
And of course, my man, Ainsley Bowden, seasoned gaming, the big cast, my guy, one of our good friends in the industry, man. Just really, I love what you do, how you do it, the professional manner you do it. You always carry yourself well. And you're good. You're good for gaming, man. You're good for the culture. So it's always good to be able to work with you and do stuff. Where can the fine people find you? What you got going on?
Always appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. It's reciprocal. You and Sav are just brothers out here. So really appreciate you inviting me. I love the conversation. We could have kept going all night. I know. I just thought of another zillion story I didn't even get to tell. We'll do it sometime.
Damn, I almost want it now. I almost like I want you to kind of tell it now. Come on. No. Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go.
Well, I don't have to go. It's
no, bro, I want the zillion story. Come on, real quick.
So
we got zillion brothers here.
But this is no joke. I didn't realize I get to say it. But Zillion, it was one of those games that came home from KB, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't know what it was. To Steven's point, it's like, what the hell is this game? Never heard of it. I start playing it, and you realize you have to have the 4 codes for every room, right?
Yep.
Can't remember them. I'm trying to play. So my mom, I told you, my mom's a sweetheart. She was a single mother. My siblings are older, so it was, I was with her all the time. So no joke, she would sit next to me. We only had one TV, and I would play it, and she would sit next to me with pen and paper. And as I got every code, she would draw it, and then you'd have to put in the codes, and she'd be like, "Okay, here they are." And we literally, to this day, how old am I? 36 years later, she comes to visit me on Christmas usually. She still remembers. We still joke about it.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
Great.
Oh, those codes it meant everything in that game. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a touching story. We working together with that.
That's why I never forget Zillion, because it's always there. And Zillion 2, that launched, she bought it for me thinking
that
was going to happen.
So you guys really hated it.
I started racing it, and I was like, what the hell is this?
What is this thing? Yeah.
We didn't even talk about how upset. Like, graphically was good. It was a complete game. Side scroller, hard as hell. It transformed into a robot. It was just.
It was all over the place.
I hated it.
I hated it. Yeah.
I think it was just so different than Zillion. That's what like. If it came out on its own and had no, maybe we could have liked it, but it just like you expected Zillion 2. Not like some totally different game.
The try formation. I remember that damn game.
But anyway, guys, thanks again. Steven, great meeting you, man. Absolute pleasure.
Awesome,
first time talking with you. And you can find it Season Gaming, guys. Everything's there. We've moved the big cast to Sunday mornings now, because your boy Travis is actually part of our panel now.
Fantastic.
Which is awesome. Great guy. He brings a lot. Good, he's just a good guy. Yeah. So perfect fit for us.
Nice.
And it's been great. We're looking forward to our show tomorrow. But just find me out there and on Twitter. And thanks again, guys. Chat's been awesome as well.
Yeah, chat's been awesome. We're just on the way. I saw my Sega brother. Where can the fine people find you? You had the stories. You exposed me as a fraud during a certain generation.
I know we got called out.
We got called out bad. Everybody, it was bad, but we had to own that. We did betray.
That's fine. That's fine. All of us have done our dirt in the past. You can find me tomorrow on the Iron Lords podcast, 1 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. There will be plenty of smoke to go around tomorrow. As we have Dustin from Last Stand Media coming through. Oh, it's going to be fun tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But you can find me on Twitter, Lordstop ILP, BX Sovereign on PSN and Xbox Live. Guys, I needed this. I needed this, man. Ainge. We're right here, brother. Yeah. Steve, fantastic to be on the show with you. I don't know if I was on the show.
You may have missed when he was on.
When he was on, I believe I did miss. So I'm glad to be able to talk Sega with you, man. And
that was great. I loved it.
I gotta call him the guru, man. Mike.
Oh, bro.
That was incredible.
Mike was a treasure today.
Mike has encyclopedic knowledge of this stuff, and you could tell the passion and the love that he has for it. So it's always fun to see all those things that I got rid of, and I'm like, oh my god, I had that. Oh my god, I had that.
Insight and
dude,
the extra knowledge. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Sega, man, Sega's so important to this industry, and modern Sega is different. There's certain things they do super well, and this has been talked the past year about Microsoft possibly whatever. Honestly, I don't care who buys them if they're bought at all, but I want them to look at their back catalog and to see these games and bring them forward. Even if you start out with just repackaging the old stuff and giving it to us, you have fans that will pay you whatever you ask to bring these games forward. So I really want to see that happen and have them sort of focus more on their legacy and bringing that forward, because I think they'd be surprised at the people at how many people would be interested in a lot of those classic franchises.
No doubt. So, well, Demontre, you want to just get a couple of the super chats on the way out, because I think we missed a few.
Yeah, we have a couple. We have
out of respect.
Hold on a second. Ran it back.
While you do that, while you find
I got it. Mad Will, $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Then we have Gerald Mack, $5 super chat. That's crazy, Ains. I did the same thing with my Atari 2600 as a younger boy, never told by mom.
Nice. The Genesis story. Yeah,
Genesis story.
That was the story.
Kaibatsu did that as well, but he got caught.
I never do that. I never did that with you.
Well, actually, no, he snitched out my sister. That was it. Yeah, he was a snitch. Yeah. Gaming Addict, $2 super chat. Support, even though I'm tired of Sega talk.
Your young behind had to learn today.
Yes, today. You got to go to school today.
Young generation, don't listen.
Six Slayer, $3 super chat. Sega gave me a good feeling I have no words for. So we have Urban Ninja, $5 super chat. Dream Team Basketball. I forgot about
that. Yes.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Then we have Harlem Knight. Yeah, I'm sorry. $5 super chat. Mystic Defender was the sequel to Spellcaster. That's right, on the Sega Master System.
Yes, I didn't even.
Yeah, that's it.
That. Yes, correct.
And we got Nam Omar, $2 super chat. Salute to my fellow Sega brethren. Salute, sir.
Salute, bro.
Then we have Iron Mike, $5 super chat. Shout out to Sega for having Game Pass and the Switch way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
Very forward thinking.
Yep.
Yes.
Very innovative.
Then we have Gamers Play with the $5 super chat. Dynamite Hetty, another treasure joint. Yes. Valis 2 and 3. Sophius, great Sega Genesis games too. Yes.
Yeah, he called some good ones out.
He got some good ones. I remember that.
The Rubber Knob with the $5 super chat. I haven't seen that name in a long time. Morning, Lords. I was a Sega kid, had the Mega Drive 2, Saturn, and Dreamcast. Imagine where consoles would be if Sega was still in the race. Yes.
Yeah. Good point.
Fat Boy Horror, £5 super chat. If Sega came out with another console next month, I'd be there day one.
Rapid.
Oh, would we? Infrablade, $5 super chat. My Panzer Dragoon Saga sells for over $1,500. That's serious.
Wow.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And then we have E. Murray, $5 super chat. The best driving game for the Dreamcast that must be collected is Le Mans 24-hour racing.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, really?
Le Mans, it was the real. Do you remember? You remember Colbera used to do the 24-hour races?
Yes, it had that level of
in F1. Yeah, in F1, Le Mans did it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was one of the first racing games that had the actual day and night racing, and it had like 24 cars on the field. It was amazing.
Wow.
He's right. He's not
simulation
wrong. Yeah.
pits and all that.
Yeah,
What
it was,
type
it
of
was
racing
beautiful,
was
and
it?
it
Was
had
it-
the actual Le Mans track.
Oh,
It's like an
wow.
it's an F1 game.
Oh, it's an
Yeah,
F1 game. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. I used to like those back in the day. That's what's
Yeah.
up.
And then we have Lord Metroid, $2 super chat. Cog inserted the Sega cart right tonight. Good job.
We did it, baby. We did it. We all caught up?
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right, cool. Look, everybody enjoy your day. This was fantastic. Again, shout out to Mike, the OG, original, next level gaming. Again, educating us, giving us all that knowledge. Steven, you already know. Brother, appreciate you, man. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, Ainsley, you already know. Sega, man, we always going to keep it alive. We always going to keep it alive. So, salute. Everybody, enjoy your day. We're out of here. Peace.
See you guys.